Hey, welcome to episode 174 of the Collector's Quest podcast. So you want to collect Turbografx-16, a console that has 94 games, at least on HuCards. Somehow this episode is 3 hours long. I hope you guys have a road trip or something. Tell your mom about the show, give us 5 stars on iTunes, and let's talk about collecting Turbografx. Back to another episode of Collector's Quest. I'm Tyler here with Johnny. It is 2 a.m. What's going on, guys?
You must be lonely.
Yeah.
I guess that's
also,
3 a.m.
Also, he's not even going to bother to mention me. He's only here with Johnny.
We had a couple episodes where you were gone. Now I'm just used to just saying Johnny, and Stefan.
Hi.
You always say hi. Hi is not a good way to start a conversation. It gives me nothing to work off. Puts all the onus on me.
Tyler
get to work, Tyler.
Really dislikes poor people.
Oh my fucking god.
Are you just realizing this? He talks.
Nothing I said was disparaging poor people. I was bringing attention to poverty
the fact
in
that
America.
you're a poor.
Some people can't afford sealed left rose copies of Super Mario Bros. 3, including myself. I'm in the category that you were saying I'm disparaging or something.
Yeah, so to just be clear what the hell is going on for anyone who doesn't know, Tyler posted in his Week of Super Mario 3 post, he posted a sealed right or center justified bros for Super Mario 3 and the challenge set one. And he took some flack because of the way he described poor people not being able to find the left bros. And he was including himself in that sentiment, and somebody called him tone deaf. Because they didn't, it was them, and then there was the joke, which was meters beyond that man's head. So, it's normally me having to tell Tyler that these are the jokes, and, congrats, he found the joke, but this guy gets jokes less than Tyler, so that's...
I'm not calling you, Johnny. You're calling this guy. I want to be friends.
I didn't
with
say
everybody.
I did not. I didn't say you called it. I'm just saying
He's
that
probably
this is what
listening to the
happened.
show, Johnny. Why would anyone follow me on Instagram?
Minus one listener.
Damn it!
I'm just saying he missed the joke. Haven't you ever, Stefan? You've missed plenty of jokes.
Yes, I have.
Yeah,
I miss all the jokes.
And Tyler,
I never miss a joke.
Tyler misses jokes, plural, every show. It's not a bad thing. It just happens. He just missed. He called you tone deaf, but he missed that you were joking. Now he's informed that you were joking. Now I'm letting him in on the joke and everyone else. Welcome to
I am a big fan of the comment about halfway down where he's this gentleman is equating buying graded video games to dating women. So that's a good read.
I don't know what was going on there. Why are we talking about my Instagram? What happened?
Because you're the most poppin' Instagrammer on the show.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually true.
What? Because I actually post. What are you talking about? Stefan's got a following of people who worship him now.
No, Stefan's Instagram posts suck.
It's
just here's
just
a picture of my
Pirates of Dark Water VHS.
Yeah,
I did.
Well, just now, but before he's here's a picture of my child. Who cares?
That's right. Stupid children.
Yeah. Oh, this is my family page. I post wherever I want. It's my Instagram. Nobody cares.
What? He didn't. I'm looking at it right now. He didn't post his kid. It's all video game garbage.
I posted a cosplay picture.
He posts stories with her in it.
I'm sure
and
it's
he mentioned
to video games.
Well, and in his opening volley after he changed his name, he was telling people this is my Instagram, and I've changed it to RMP, but a lot of this is my personal stuff. So if you don't like some of that, you just have to fucking deal with it. Go away.
Deal with it. Just deal with it. I do. My stories, I usually keep my personal stuff to my stories. That's true. I do. I fawn over Kate pretty often in my stories. That's a thing.
You do.
Yeah. That's why we don't watch your stories.
I'm just teasing. I don't care what you fucking post.
I posted me beating Killer Instinct in my stories today. That was cool.
Well, is it?
Yeah, but
Killer Instinct is a terrible game.
It is a fighting game that feels like the people who made it watched someone play a fighting game. and then went and made one.
They're like, wouldn't it be cool if these were animals? You know what? It's a worse idea than I read in a Turbo Duo magazine for a fighting game. That's for sure.
I do like it though. Yeah,
wow,
pleasure.
Johnny, was that a segue to Sean Cermic's favorite 16-bit console and Kanye West's favorite video game console, the Turbografx-16?
Is that true? Yeezy is digging the turbo, huh?
I thought he said he was going to name an album just Turbografx-16, and it was in the news because like mainstream news was like, let us tell you what a Turbografx-16 is, because no one knows what that is.
Because no one knows. It's that console that nobody owned, but inexplicably had one friend that did.
I didn't have a friend who had one. Turbografx, as a kid, to me, I got my issue of Electronic Gaming Monthly, and it said Turbografx-16 at the top, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? I've never seen one of those.
Shout out to David McCauley, my friend who had a Turbografx-16.
Oh, man, you are so fancy. I had a friend with a Sega Saturn, and I thought that was the craziest thing ever, because no one had a Sega Saturn. That was just my thing.
Stefan grew up in a rich area, though.
That's true.
That makes sense.
He's over in Pasadena being fancy.
Yep.
Even if you weren't fancy, then
South Pasadena,
the kids were.
It's so fancy, people don't understand that it's a separate city.
I'm getting shit for being out of touch. You're talking about South Pasadena. We're not.
We have our own water supply. We have our own police department. It's a thing.
Yeah. My brother-in-law is actually from South Pasadena, I think. Or at least he was living there, and he worked for the city there for a while. Yeah. So and then he was pretty high on South Pass too. And just like Tyler, I didn't care then. Tyler doesn't care now. No one cares. No one gives a shit.
Yes.
Yeah, especially not our listeners. So unless you have more fawning over South Pasadena to do,
nope.
Perhaps we can move on to the episode.
Perhaps.
What's the Turbografx-16, Johnny? So you want to collect Turbografx-16, guys? I think people know how this.
Well, that was a train wreck of a transition.
Jesus
Johnny, you want to give that a
Christ.
shot? You want to try that out?
No, you guys
Johnny.
are fucking terrible.
Johnny, I want you to know that there's a Turbografx-16.
You're talking over me right now. It's bullshit. You would talk about nothing for the next 45 minutes if I didn't try to get this on track.
And people would love all the comments would be like, "Look, I listened to the first 45 minutes,
and Stefan's
then
gonna make that comment every fucking time this happens." And keep trying to do it intentionally.
Stefan, we got him to cuss. We got him to drop an F-bomb.
I know.
Man, trolling ain't easy unless it is. Sometimes it is. It's super easy.
I'm out. I don't need to be on the rest of this podcast. I can just
okay.
go,
all right, we'll see you later, Stefan. I know you're tired. You should probably get to bed. It's late where you are.
Yeah, man. It's 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
11 o'clock on a Saturday.
So let me tell everybody, we are doing the So You Want to Collect for Turbografx-16.
Well, that was such a harsh transition, Johnny. We were just talking about how much Tyler was yelling. You're not going to slowly roll us over there?
This is my favorite episode.
So in this episode, we will specifically discuss the Turbografx-16, but not the Turbo CD and not the Turbo Duo, which are different things, except for one game which is branded with Turbo Duo, even though it is a Hue card. Anyways, so you want to collect Turbografx-16? We're here for you. We're doing the episode the best we can, but let me just caveat this whole episode. Turbografx-16 information is real poor. Mm-hmm. And as you guys know, if you listen to the show, Game Value Now and price charting, they have their problems, right? And sometimes our information isn't reliable. But when you get to Turbografx-16, you might as well just not even click on that because it's pointless. Both of them are dog shit.
That's right.
Both of them, because they're not meant to handle the exceptions that are the stupid Turbografx-16. And then, the mail order, because Turbografx Direct, or what? Well, it's not
TurboZone Direct.
TurboZone Direct was a big mail order thing. All these dates are off. Street dates are hard to come by. There's a bunch of mishmash of information. So if you've heard something different than what we try to tell you on this episode, especially about a date or something, don't add us. Yeah, don't add us. You might be right.
Sure.
Or just respond in the comment. I heard something else, because we're working with, poorly archived data.
I heard
We're
there were
not
only
from the
10,000
80s and 90s.
Turbografx ever made.
Yeah, and that's right. That because there's only ever 10,000 anything ever made. We make that joke, and then literally in the Wikipedia, someone wrote that there was only 10,000. You know,
Did you guys see that Steve Lin has the first production Turbografx?
he's got one. He's got the one of
first
10,000.
No. It's like the first, like it's.
That's what I'm
the
saying. He's
first
got
one off the line.
0-1 of 10,000.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. The
It's crazy.
definitive number of turbos that were made.
That's right.
Anyways,
How do you get the first one? Did they like keep it for themselves and then
And
when they
like you
went
said,
out of
the
business? Or they didn't? Did they go out of business, or did just Konami buy all their assets? How did he get it, Stefan? You know how this happened?
Steve Lin just like buys things.
Okay. Also,
So-
tell the people who Steve Lin is. He's just a video game history man.
Yeah, he's a game historian, significantly associated with the Video Game History Foundation. He's also an executive at Discord, but mostly that first thing.
Boring Discord. Tell me more about the
Yeah.
game history. Am I right?
He's got like the sculpted like the NBA Jam basketball like from the cover that they like shot for the cover. He has that basketball. I'm a little bit jealous of that one. I like it a lot.
Okay, so none of that matters. Yeah, I'm just saying.
Stefan doesn't want to talk about games. He wants to talk
I
about
know.
one-of-a-kind bullshit.
Yeah, and also like the first production one, but that was definitely pre-production one, so it doesn't matter. It's not the real first one. It's bullshit. Anyways, guys, we have a format that we do for this, where we try and tell you a little bit about the history of the machine the best we can. Then we'll like kind of get into the games and some of the ancillary data. You know, we'll talk about different system packs, rare games, how expensive it is. We'll get through all of that through, in the format of all the other ones we've done of So You Want to Collect. So that's what we're doing here. And, yeah, Tyler, would you like to start us out?
Do I want to start us out?
Yeah, do
Johnny,
you want to give us like the...
Yeah, I'll tell you what a Turbografx is, Johnny. But I just want to say, while researching this episode, I realized how little I care about the Turbografx. Like, I already thought I cared a little, and then while going over like every little aspect of it, I'm just like, oh my god. Anyway.
Tyler won't care about it until like they start grading it, and then it goes to the moon, and then he's on the late freight, and then has to like.
Oh,
I'm on the early train for everything. I'm collecting Apple II games and Japanese PC games, Stefan.
He's so early that he will be dead before these things ever take off. Which is a way to say they
One
will
day,
never ever take off.
Archaeologists are going to dig this up and be like, "What is this?"
Games?
And then finally see their value and understood what Tyler understood, because they're literally going to be looking through his eyes, which they have preserved in a jar, I guess.
Yeah, it's just going to be like Wild Wild West. After seeing Wild Wild West, I wondered if you could put a head on a projector and it would show you the last thing someone saw, because I didn't understand that movies can lie to you. Guys, Hudson Soft, super cool developer of the 80s.
Hold on, I want to just be clear for everybody that Tyler was 14 when that.
Was I?
I have no idea.
Wild Wild West seems like a 90s movie.
It was a 90s movie. You were probably younger than 14.
I was younger than 14.
Yeah.
But now I don't want to give an exact age, because now I'm worried of how I should have known that was a stupid thing from a movie.
Now I've made you feel insecure about
yes. All right. When did Wild Wild West come out?
Right. Tyler's like, we really need to hurry up. When did Wild West come out?
I was 10.
Hold on,
okay.
whole podcast full of listeners.
Johnny, you brought something up involving Will Smith to Tyler.
That's true. Can we get a few bars from any of the Millennium tracks? Can we get that?
Hudson Soft, major video game developer of the 80s. Everybody loves them. They made a ton of computer games.
When did Wild Wild West come out?
It came out in 1999. I was 10 years old.
You made everybody wait, and then you weren't going to tell them?
I told you, didn't hear me. I'm already...
It is so fun to do this to Tyler. I love when because I'm normally the one off the rails, so it's so much better when it's Tyler.
It is so much better. It's so much better.
It's way funnier.
I like complaining about like some video game bullshit, not like my podcast hosts are talking about something I don't want to talk about.
But kind of wanted to talk about Wild Wild West because you stopped the podcast to look it up.
I did.
Yeah, you did.
I did. I was willing to take the 10-second tangent to look up that Wild Wild West came out in 1999.
Right. Okay, excellent. Now tell me about Hudson Soft and NEC and the Turbografx-16.
Hudson Soft, video game developer of the 1980s. They made a lot of games. You might have heard of Bomberman, and whatever the second Bomberman game was, they made a first-person Bomberman for like Japanese computers. It's Bomberman in first person. It looks horrible. I don't even understand how you would play it. It doesn't look fun. Anyway, they're like, hey, we want to make a video game console. And I think they designed the Turbografx-16. Basically, Hudson made this and went to NEC, and they're like, you want to build this? And NEC is like, okay.
Well, it's because they didn't know how to get into the video game market. They didn't have the experience, so they needed to partner up to find a window in. So they went and found a partner who had more experience than them. That's how that came about.
And that is how the PC Engine came about. And that is why Hudson made like half of the games for the Turbografx-16. So that was 1987, the PC Engine came out, adorable little console. 2 years later, it came to America. They made the case 3 times as big because they're super dumb and think that Americans don't understand that a small thing can still be cool. Now we're all about small
size equals
things.
Value.
Oh, I love big empty hunk of plastic. This really feels like a high quality thing. Turbografx feels like such a piece of shit because it is empty. They should have put like concrete in it or something. Then it would have felt awesome. And yeah, so it came out around the time of the Sega Genesis. It is called 16 because it's got like a 16-bit bus or something. I know bits don't mean anything.
It's got a 16. It's got, well, that's the thing, right? So it kind of this is the problem. It's the first system that advertised itself as a 16-bit console, but that was because it was coming to America late and they were playing off the 16. So it had a 16-bit CPU, it had an 8-bit CPU, but then it had like a 16-bit like color array in it and ROM. Yeah, so it was like
it's a 16-bit
really
video
dumb.
color encoder and video display controller. Like, okay, but it's an 8-bit CPU. I don't know. I don't know what counts. Basically,
it's basically an 8-bit system that was kind of mislabeled, and that was part of the problem. And,
it's a really
our
cool
friend
8-bit
Andrew,
system.
Yeah, it is. But our friend Andrew Brim, he wants everyone to know that this is a system that was not designed to compete with the Super Nintendo and Genesis. Unfortunately, when it lands in America in 1989, right as the Genesis and Super Nintendo are Super Nintendo about to come out, Genesis I think is just out or just about to come out. It's now competing with those, and it shouldn't be. It should be competing with the NES and the Famicom because that's what it was really, the era it was designed to be competing in. But it gets lumped into, but America leaned into the marketing of the 16 and 16 bits to try and sell it because anything that isn't a Nintendo is hard to sell in America. So they were really pushing, and then, so it got like really unfair reviews because bad marketing. So
it's got like big old sprites and stuff. It doesn't look like Sega Master System is a console that has a bunch of shitty looking 8-bit games, but Turbografx-16 has some big fancy graphics that I would say look better than Sega Master System.
Yeah, I would too, but the Sega Master System is an 8-bit system. So, but does it look as good as the Genesis or the Super Nintendo?
It doesn't.
And it's not.
It's
right. And that's the thing. But if you're like these are your 3 choices of 16-bit systems, then you're like, oh, oof, why? Why would I pick this? Maybe you would pick it because it has a really good controller. Is that why you would pick it, Tyler?
No, because the controller is horrible.
That's a really bad D-pad.
And like the PC Engine uses a different port, right? Because the Turbografx has that big honk and chonker port, and the PC Engine has the tiny little port. I'm sure there's some mini DIN. Someone knows the name of these ports, but you can't even just buy a PC Engine controller. You have to, which is the same, by the way. You have to get a converter for it. And I'm just bringing that up because Hori made the Hori Commander, which has an actual D-pad on it, which is fine. It's basically an NES controller with a rounded top. But man, the Turbografx controller sucks, Johnny. But it's got really turbo switches on it.
Woo!
Great.
I just want to.
They couldn't just call it the graphics.
That's true. They're just that the Kanye West album, it was his 8th album, and it was later just changed to Ye, but it was going to be called Turbografx-16. That was back in 2016. I just found that out, so I'm just getting that note out there. Anyways, so the Turbografx didn't do very well in America for a lot of reasons. The controller, the bad marketing.
Was the controller really part of it? I feel like did anyone actually care?
As a kid, I'm gonna say that's anecdotal evidence. But as a kid, I knew that was a bad controller because I had like 2 friends who had it, and they're like, yeah, it doesn't feel as good as my Nintendo. But they were kids who had money, so they could afford to be picky. So yeah,
I would say it failed because it had no fucking games, Johnny.
Well, it.
Oh, I'm calling you out, Turbo fans.
Yeah,
with your 96 U-card games.
Well, yeah, it had games. But that when you look at them compared to Genesis games, they're like, maybe this isn't. But if you would have just put it against Nintendo, but still, it's under 100 games, so the exact number is 94. But yeah, it just didn't work out here, which is a shame because it did really well in Japan and other parts of the world. So it was doing well there. They just America has its own set of conceits, and Turbografx just didn't meet it, and I think largely the marketing campaign failed it. And that is actually cited as one of the biggest things, is the failed marketing campaign.
Oh, yeah, so Turbografx, it was only, or I don't know if it was only, or they focused on metropolitan areas. They're just like, that's where the people are, so let's just put our ads in New York City and LA and places like that. And that's probably why I never heard of the Turbografx. Also, I was probably too young to have heard of the Turbografx, but
I mean, I was in LA and I don't recall, like, my only exposure, again, shout out to David McCauley, my only exposure to the console was through him. Like, it was the one guy that I knew. Like, literally, when I went over to his house and saw it for the first time, I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, so whatever marketing they were doing sure wasn't canvassing enough of Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing, for us too, especially since a lot of their stuff came out of like Burbank, Stefan, like in an area close to us, you would have think we would have saw more, and we did not. I had the same experience. I knew the 2 kids who had it, who had money, that talked about it on the playground or whatever, but I didn't see like ads for it or anything. It's not like there was a bunch of commercials that I was missing. And like, we're in Los Angeles. There's not many bigger metropolis, metropolitan areas that you would think you'd be advertising in, right? Like, if it missed us, and we were kids looking at games a lot, then it must not have been doing very well. That's all I'm saying. I remember seeing Bonk, though, like a couple, but later in the lifespan, like as it was about to die.
Yeah.
So, and that's like, if you don't know, that is the mascot. That's like one thing. Some fun facts: the Turbografx outsold the Famicom in Japan in 1987.
What?
But yeah, that's crazy, right? But in America, and I think worldwide, it was dead by 1994. So in America, that's 1989 to 1994. That's a very small window. Especially not to have a new system like come behind it. There was supposed to be the Super Graphics that was coming out after, but it just didn't hit here, and that didn't do particularly well anyways. And it died a horrible death, and thus the Turbografx-16 and NEC and the PC Engine, all of that, their history in the video game arena is smaller than it should be.
And yet it's thought of as like this beloved system.
And I mean, there are people who are.
Well, I would imagine it's one of those, when you have a populace like that is like passionate about their thing, but also very small and feeling disenfranchised, then of course, like looking back, I think they would especially have, like, I feel like the people who did love it today love it even harder because they were like the underdog that nobody talked about, nobody knew about, right? So like, I'm sure it is intensely beloved by the people who love it, right? Probably more so than other consoles that are more widely popularized.
Okay, I'm going to push this down into the number of games and like the kind of the exceptions with games. For everyone listening, like we're still going to talk about the history. We will give you a bunch of information about the games. That's just coming down a little bit further. Anyways, the number of games, Tyler, 94. And the games are weird because they're not your typical cartridge games that you expect, like on the Nintendo or the Genesis or the Master System. They're Hue cards, which were the Master System games considered Hue cards? What were they like? Because they had cards that are very similar, but not.
Yeah, I think they were.
Were they Sega My cards? What are they called?
I don't know what they're called. I'm like, you know what? I don't know what those are called, but they are similar looking to that. I mean, both pretty obscure things. So one of the biggest
same tech.
Maybe one of the biggest problems with Turbografx and collecting it is the inconsistency throughout the system. I was trying to explain that earlier. Like, normally we can tell you it's best to collect loose or complete, and and then in other cases, or buy these hot games sealed. But Turbo has a middle ground inside of loose to CIB, which is CIC, which is complete in case, because they came in an outer box, which had a thin outer box with a thin piece of styrofoam in it, and then a jewel case. And that is true for 74 of the 94 U cards. And there are 20 of them that come with these vacuum plastic trays, which are garbage and don't actually protect the box. It's worse than the jewel card and the piece of styrofoam. But there are 20 of those. And so you have this weird thing that, people would take the jewel cases, right? And they collect oh, I'm not collecting with the boxes because those got trashed and they were cheaply made and very inconsistent. So I'm just going to collect these jewel cases. That seems reasonable, except there was 20 games of the 94 that didn't come with it. So what did they do? What did they do, Stefan? Tell me what they did. What was their solution?
Well, before that, Johnny, I'd also point out that there was a hard delineation between okay, we're doing the jewel cases and now we're not. So that means that all of those games are end of life for the system. And what do we know about games that are typically end of life for systems? They're generally very, very hard to find and expensive.
Yep.
So your Magical Chase, your Hero Tanma, all the big, which we'll talk about more later, but all the big, really big titles are in this category of not having a jewel case. So what a lot of collectors have done is that they will cannibalize. So here's the thing. When we say jewel case, if you're not familiar with the Hue card jewel case, it's not just like a CD case. You can't just find any CD. The outer dimensions are the same, but you open it up and there's an insert tray for the Hue card that is totally different than what you would find on for a CD. So you can't just go and cannibalize any CDs. So what people have done, and this is more so before the advent or popularity of 3D printing. Now people can 3D print those inserts, but they cannibalized a lot of the cheaper games, like the TV games and the things that you used to be able to find. Not that you find anything in dollar bins anymore, but those dollar bin games, the sports titles and stuff like that, they would cannibalize for the jewel case and just rip off the label from the jewel case and resell the game loose. So that's why you find on that low end, you find a ton of sports games for Turbo loose, because people were set collectors were cannibalizing that end of the library, the cheap end of the library, for their jewel cases, and you can readily find high quality prints, or they're not reproductions because again they're
creations.
They're one-off creations, right? That you can buy sticker sheets to then apply to your jewel case that you've cannibalized to make a jewel case for these 20 games that didn't originally have them.
Yeah. And assuming you know what that looks like, it's basically you print a spine label, but instead of a CD where it's just a paper insert behind it, this is literally a sticker that goes over the top of the spine and then on the back of the case. So that means those things get to peel up and they're always damaged.
Oh yeah,
and
giant
the
pain
worst.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a bad system. Anyways, so they Stefan was saying, they like have these sticker sheets that you put over, because the manuals are just like CD insert manuals. The top part of the case is just like a CD jewel case pretty much. And, you know, the instruction manual is put into those conventions, and you just slide it in the little tabs and put your stupid sticker on your TV sports game, and now you've got, you know, Ghost Manor or Newtopia 2 or whatever didn't come with it. And the 20, Stefan, why don't you tell them what the 20 games that came with plastic trays, and this is in alphabetical order.
Sure. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, Order of the Griffin. By the way, that's one of my favorite covers for. It's a beautiful cover. It's like a painted D&D cover. It's amazing. Anyway, Airzonk, Bomberman 93, Bonk 3, Chase HQ, Darkwing Duck, which is a nightmare to find the instruction manual, by the way. Dead Moon, Falcon, Ghost Manor, Hit the Ice, Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu, Legend of Hero Tanma, which is one of the big ones, Magical Chase, which is the big one, Newtopia 2, New Adventure Island, Samurai Ghost, Shockman, which is kind of a pain in the ass, Soldier Blade, also a pain in the ass, Summer Assault, Time Cruise, and World Sports Competition. Johnny, can I take a second to tell an interesting story about Soldier Blade here?
Sure.
So I just talked about Soldier Blade. It is one of those one of the games that did not have a case, which means sometimes in the wild. So basically, it is always worth your time if you find turbo games in the wild, especially the cheap titles, to open up those jewel cases and look at the card inside. Because I swear to God, this was at, I think I told you when this happened at the time, Johnny.
Yep.
But I went to Game Dude in LA, and all of their turbo games were propped up on their edges, right? So you can read the spines. And I bought out all of their turbo games that were cheap, because I was doing exactly what we were talking about. I was going to be cannibalizing them. So I bought out everything, all their TV games and all that. And I'm going through, and I open up the TV games football. Sure enough, it's a copy of Soldier Blade that I paid the like $10 or whatever for the TV games for. So when these people are cannibalizing games or for cases, and sometimes it gets released back into the wild, it's definitely worth your time to double check all those cheap titles if you find them in the wild, just to make sure that they're not something special.
Okay, can I get a clarification here? 'Cause I don't collect turbo really. So these games that come with plastic trays, why do you want to make a case for them if you're going to have it in the box anyway? Wouldn't you want it complete in box?
But you're not.
You're not doing that. This is where CIC comes from.
Okay, right. So you're making basically a repro case for people who don't want to buy the box.
Correct. So for people who are going to collect in jewel case only, like my collection was jewel case only, it's for the people. So because that way they look uniform on the shelf. That's really the whole.
That's really it. So like a lot of those times,
it sucks because you have to basically kill 20 games to make your stupid collection uniform.
And a lot of people did that.
Oh my God.
Now in 2021 times, there are people who do 3D print those inserts for those cases. So now you can kind of cannibalize a CD jewel case and put in a printed insert.
All right.
So
well, I guess good.
This is. This is like a weird system that you get this for. So like sometimes you'll find boxes. Like one of the things you can do when you're collecting this is if you find someone who's collecting jewel case only, you can hit them up, because sometimes they're just forced to buy a game in a box. I mean, not now because it's hard to find boxes, but they might have their old boxes lying around because they don't care about them, because they wanted to just do Hue cards, because the boxes, the UK card or the jewel cases are pretty sturdy, but the boxes are kind of garbagey. So, a lot of them, they, just for looks, they didn't want to put those out. So, I think I got a bunch of boxes from you, right, Stefan? Because you were doing CIC?
Yeah. Or like, remember when I couldn't find a CIC copy of volleyball, so I was forced to buy a sealed copy?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do, yeah.
Because like that, I forget what the actual title of the game, it's a volleyball game, but like, it was easier at the time, at least, to find sealed than it was to find loose. So I ended up buying a sealed copy and opening it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna skip over the value here, and I just want to get your guys' opinion now, because we've just talked about this a lot. What do you think it's better to do? Do you think it's better to collect this system loose, CIC, or complete? and give me some reasons why. Tyler, you haven't talked a lot, so let's hear from you.
I have no idea because Johnny, I collect everything, and I have probably half the fucking library CIC, but like I don't consider it like a super great collection. And I normally for a console like this, I would say just get the expensive games and just get them complete. But even for like, you're going to be spending what, $900 on like half the good games. So I don't know. I want to say complete in box, but I definitely wouldn't follow my own advice. So my advice is don't collect Turbografx.
Okay.
Or
Stefan,
or just get a CIC. Just get CIC because at least you can put it on the shelf. Don't get it loose. Don't be a crazy person.
Loose is no. So complete in box if you could, but CIC is probably what's going to happen.
I guess all us normal people are stuck with CIC because there's just not enough boxes.
So
Stefan,
I liked CIC. Again, I did a CIC set. Part of it was like, not gonna lie, price, right? Because the Delta, at the time, and it's still true, but like, then
it seemed more extreme back then.
Yeah. So
when
here's
games
the thing
were
about
insane.
Right. Here's the thing: is that like Turbo, and we'll probably get to this later, but this factors into my answer. So, Turbo used to be like one of the like per game really expensive sets to do, right? Similar to Saturn, right? Very, very low count for the collection, but per game, the average was really high. And so now with all the sealed mania for all the other consoles, it's now like one of the more reasonable sets to collect for. But at the time, so price definitely factored into my decision to go CIC. The other thing, aesthetically, I honestly liked the CD, like those boxes, as Johnny kind of mentioned earlier, are kind of garbagey. And one of the big decisions or one of the things that really made me kind of put me over the edge for CIC versus complete in box is that unlike the NES, where you will very often have a manual that has different art or no art or whatever compared to what's on the box or on the game label, on Turbo, almost all the time, maybe all the time, Johnny, can you think of an example where the manual art is not the same as the box art?
Not offhand.
So now, with jewel cases, since they are like CD style insert manuals, you're putting the manual, which has the same art that's on the box, in the front of the jewel case. And so when you're looking at the game, you're still seeing the beautiful box art, right? So it's not a like, oh, I need the box to appreciate the art, which everyone knows I tend to appreciate art. You don't have that consideration. I don't need the box to enjoy the art. I can have the manual and enjoy the art pretty much identically. So that wasn't a concern. So if you are one of those people who really love the art on boxes, you don't necessarily need to go CIB on Turbo to still get enjoyment from the art because it's on the manual, which is in the front of the jewel case. Yeah. Also, I think that art is also screen printed on all the Hue cards, I think. I can't think of an example in which the game art is not screen printed on the Hue card. There may be an example, but by and large, it's the same label, then also printed on the Hue card. So even if you did go loose, you would still get that art. And one thing that I kind of think is charming about the Hue cards, if you do want to collect loose, is that they are roughly the same form factor of like a trading card. So I've seen like really nicely presented collections of Turbo just in like a binder for baseball cards, like with baseball card insert pages and done that way. So, and they're pretty slim. So it's not like a Game Boy game where you put that in one of those pages and it's like really bulky. It's still pretty slimline. So like, honestly, I think, aside from the fact that you then have like a stack of manuals if you had a manual collection, like loose to me is not a bad option for Turbo. If you like that sort of like binder sort of trading card presentation. But again, I'd still go back and still collect CIC because again, the price delta is there and I don't get there's no added benefit from like an artistic perspective to get the box versus versus doing CIC. So I would still go CIC, but I think loose is still an option.
No, Stefan. So one thing that I will bring up is that so I love holding cue cards. Like if you have a stack of just loose TurboGrafx games, they're just fun to play with. They're really cool form
They feel like
factor.
poker chips almost.
Right?
Yeah.
They have exactly the same appeal as like holding a stack of poker chips, except the price delta between a loose cartridge and CIC is nowhere near worth it. I just randomly looked up Time Cruise. It's like $35 loose or like 50-ish complete. Like it would make no sense to go loose.
That's fair.
It's
yeah, I
cheap
was just
enough
thinking
CIC.
more from like a presentation standpoint.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't hurt my feelings like collecting like a spindle of fucking CDs hurts my feelings. Right? Like
Yeah. Or Genesis games. Like, let's not forget that.
Of course.
yes.
Yeah.
Number 10 of the show, if you collect loose Genesis, you are a monster.
Yeah, so for me, so I disagree with you guys.
Good.
Mostly, or not mostly. I agree with you only partly. I like CIC is fine. Loose is like, well, okay, yeah, I can see the presentation thing. And I actually think loose might be better than CIC, but not as good as complete because again, it comes down to presentation. And like, I just want, you know me, Stefan, I want uniformity. I want things just to look all the same. And I don't want to cannibalize games.
Oh, okay.
So,
I know where this is going.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Continue.
yeah. Well, I'm just saying, I don't want to cannibalize games. I don't like to do that. I just want boxes to be equally presented across. Like, I just want the system to look all the same on the shelf. You know, I like the color code thing. So that's it. I don't have more. I'm not going into crazy pants town. So I do understand though, the price and finding, especially if you're very like condition sensitive, like you're just going to be looking for a long time. And that's fine. If you want sealed games, it like used to be a thing, but especially now, and I think Wata's going to start doing sealed turbo soon, right? Or that's like
They've
in the
already
pipeline.
tested some. But like the only things out there, there's so few. There's just like a shitload of Bonk's Adventures.
Right. So I imagine if they start like if they are capping how they grade, right? Like they're going to do sealed and then maybe they'll do complete in box, but they probably won't do CIC, right? And they probably won't do loose. So
I guarantee
that,
they do it. If it fits in their case, they'll grade it.
Well,
they've graded all sorts of
maybe
weird stuff.
I know, but they
We'll
like
grade
they're,
everything right on their fucking website.
They're capping what they do and don't grade. So there might be a timetable for which like you're pushed behind the eight ball if you wanted your stuff graded sooner if there's some sort of turbo boom. All right. So that's all I'm saying. For me personally, I don't care about the grading stuff, but personally I like the uniformity. I'm so like interested in things being uniform. For my dumb Keith Courage, which was the pack-in game for the Turbografx, it's the game everyone finds. That's one of the ones that was cannibalized heavily. Is, you know, I bought a fake box for that just so it could be uniform on the shelf because I didn't want one random ass, you know, jewel case sitting on my shelf next to all my complete boxes. Even though there is a CD section it could have gone in, I'm tempted even with some of the CD games just to put them in boxes.
What do you think about
I'm stupid.
Grading all your CIC games so that they can be uniform in WATA cases?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm fine with that, except for, you know, if you wanted the whole set, you can't get them all CIC. And what would WATA... I mean, let's face it, WATA would probably grade it just fine if you cannibalized it. They'd be like, yeah, that's CIC. That's exactly how it came, and then they'd put the wrong date on it and everything. So,
Just the wrong date and everything.
Yeah.
Johnny, I have a question for you. I was just thinking about it's a little bit anecdotal, but still on topic. I feel like, and just let me know if you also feel this way, because I don't have anything. I have no data to back this up. I feel like finding manuals for those last 20 is way more challenging, and I think that probably has something to do with the fact that that they did not have jewel cases, right? So like you open up the box, and then but you know it's not like you're gonna like keep the plastic shitty tray, right? So like I feel like those manuals, I mean the magic, like for instance, I mean I'm going to use the prime example of Magical Chase, which is not a fair example, but it's really fucking difficult to find a manual for Magical Chase.
I'm with you because I think you would keep the manual just floating around in the box, more likely to get damaged, and then the box is more likely to get trashed, and the box is more likely to have the manual in it versus just the jewel cases, which were pretty compact and held the games very well and also held the manual. Those survived more. So the minute you took away the jewel case, you increased the likelihood that the manual is going to get either damaged or tossed. So I agree with your sentiment. And I agree when I've been looking for them, I find those 20 less than the other ones.
Yeah, there was actually a couple, like for a while, I did eventually find them, but like World Sports Competition and Darkwing Duck, there's actually people who make really high-end reproductions of those manuals. And I had, as a placeholder, I had just like, it wasn't the whole manual, it was just like the front and back cover of the manual that I used as just placeholders, because those manuals were a nightmare for me to find.
So Stefan, I'd like to clarify. So these games came in boxes with plastic trays, but the manuals were the exact size to put in a jewel case?
Correct.
Yep.
Okay. Turbografx is just the dumbest system that has ever existed.
Yeah. So like for all those people, like also those plastic trays aren't very hardy. Like I think somebody should 3D print that stupid vacuum form tray so you get a hardier, more stable thing to protect your box, because like if you tried to stack those trays just crack and they're awful.
I mean, someone with a vacuum table could do it too. Just make more vacuum.
He wants it to be higher quality though.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah,
because those are cheap and stupid.
Got it.
Yeah, so that's why like the ones I have that have jewel cases, I just left the jewel cases in there because I found I cannibalized styrofoam and put the styrofoam in there with the jewel case in the boxes because that's sturdier than the stupid vacuum form tray. Though it is now incorrectly married parts, I guess. But I'm more concerned about the condition of the box than, getting it graded exactly right. So I have a stack of these stupid vacuum form trays just sitting in my office. I'm like, what the hell am I ever going to do with these? I guess save them in case I ever sell it so it's correct, which is never happening. So I don't know. Just, sickness living in my brain. Anyways, guys, let's talk about the value of the set. Cool. These numbers
you
are totally
just breezed
wrong.
over this for some reason before, Johnny.
Well, because we were on the conversation of
going down the
I thought you
list,
breezed
Tyler.
over it because it's impossible to give you a good number for this.
Yeah, well, that too, but so I'm just going to go do it. So yeah, if you looked at one of those dumbass sites, you would find that like loose is $7,000 and complete is $18,000, which is not right. Don't believe that because it has, I want to tell you about the data in the complete sales for both of these sites. Complete because lots of people list CIC as complete, which pollutes their data and lowers the price. And so few games, since it's a small system, not enough games sell regularly at the higher end stuff. So you get like these really wacky prices. Like it'll think like, oh, Legend of Hero Tonma is an $800 game or a $600 game, when in reality it's like a $2,000 game complete. So or $1,500. It's in that range. It's not in the $800 range. But it brings that set down. Like, if you bought Magical Chase, like, it's saying the complete set value, like, mind you, we all know Magical Chases, we don't all know. I'm going to tell you guys, and we'll get to it more later. But we'll give you a spoiler. Magical Chase is roughly between $12,000 and $15,000. Yeah, or we'll say between $10,000 and $15,000. Sometimes you can find it for like $9,000. But that's, in the world of crazy collectibles, Magical Chase has always been a chase rare for all the systems, even when people didn't collect. It's been a thing that people have been hitting on. It's around $15,000 by itself, or 14, 12, So if that's true, and then like Legend of Hero Tonma is like $1,500, we're already like 16.5. So how could 18,000 be correct? It couldn't. So yeah, these numbers are garbage. Also, how do you calculate CIC? If I was looking at these numbers, I'd be like, well, if loose is 7,000 and complete is 18,000, I guess CIC would be about 12,000. Anyways, I think, you really need to look at eBay. And we just weren't going to go look up every game and the sales for it and calculate. So sorry, guys. We got lazy, and that's just a lot of effort to tell you a number that might not be true in a month anyways.
So Johnny, would you say Newtopia is a common game on TurboGrafx? Because
I would say it's kind of common, medium, uncommon-ish.
All right. I think Newtopia is common, but what do I know? I don't know anything about TurboGrafx.
I mean, it's a very popular game, right? It's like one of the first games I ever bought for the TurboGrafx because people are like, you should buy Newtopia.
Yeah. There are 0 complete in-box copies for sale. There are 4 Newtopia 2s, which is a much rarer game, which is like $1,000, which is why people aren't buying it. But if you go into the sold listings for Newtopia, the last one sold for like $130, and the one before that sold for $320. So like, how are we going to add up this set when the prices are all over the place? And the next one, because there's none for sale right now, could go for $400. Like,
and especially now in the world where condition is even more sensitive.
Yeah,
this is a nightmare proposition, and Turbo has a very unique set of challenges. Insert Liam Neeson. Here I have a unique set. This is what's happening here. Turbo is what a pain in the ass this system is. Mm-hmm. So, anyways, all right. Do we anything else we want to say about the values? That's what I kind of wanted to get to. Was just like how arbitrary and weird finding the values for this system are. All right. So, guys, do you think this system is particularly challenging to collect for in all of its forms, loose, CIC, or complete box? What do you think, Stefan?
Not particularly. I mean, I'm gonna say I've said this about some other systems too. I think it's more expensive than it is difficult.
What really? We just went on eBay, and one of the most popular games isn't even available for purchase. At least the box isn't. There's tons of CIC.
Yeah, I disagree with your assessment there, but go on.
I mean, then again, I put this set together years ago. So
yeah, we're in a brand new world, dude. You got to adjust your outlook.
That's right. I don't know. Tyler, you say something.
Oh, great podcast content there, Stefan. I'm gonna say no. TurboGrafx isn't hard to collect. Just go buy like the 10 games that you actually want to play. Don't worry about the boxes because you're not gonna get the boxes. Let's be realistic here. You'll be fine. If you're trying to get
just busted your balls, Stefan, and then he agreed with you.
Thank you.
What are you talking about? Stefan was talking about how super easy it is to collect in general. I was just saying it's easy to collect because you're only going to collect a very limited thing. You're going to ignore the boxes and you're just going to get 10 games. Because guess what? If you're going to collect the TurboGrafx set, you would have did it 15 years ago because TurboGrafx people, they're all maniacs that are in like a family together. If you just like started collecting video games and you're 22 years old, you don't give a shit about the TurboGrafx, so you're not going to collect all 94 TurboGrafx games. It's also not a Sega console, a Nintendo console, Microsoft, Sony. It's like its own isolated island, so it's the easiest thing in the world to ignore.
It's not the easiest thing in the world to ignor. There are easier things.
There are easier things
What didn't you buy? What didn't you buy today? Easier to ignore. We'll talk about that later. Okay. Anyways, Stefan, do you want to add more or do you want me to talk? You want to counter?
No, because like I said, I feel like he didn't hear what I said and then agreed with me.
You said it's easy in general, but you were not specifying CIC or complete in box.
I said more expensive.
Because you're a poor person who collected CIC, Stefan. You didn't get the boxes like Papa Johnny did.
I said more expensive than difficult. It was what I said.
Still disagree.
I didn't say that it was incredibly easy, like you said. I said it's fine. Okay. Go ahead, John.
So I will come at you with the correct opinion. I think this one is harder than most sets. It's not the hardest, with the caveat if you are collecting in box. It's hard, especially if you want nice condition boxes. Hard, it's a pain in the ass to do this. It's like say harder than Saturn. Super Nintendo might be more challenging, just volume. I mean, this is only 94 cards, so that provides some sort of these cards games. So that makes it a little easier in some respects. If you're collecting loose, that's not too bad. CIC is like problematic, but yeah, not too bad. The difficulty definitely, like with most systems, ramps up if you want the box, but I would say it's more difficult to find a nice in-box Turbografx-16 game than it is a nice in-box NES game or Super Nintendo game. So I'm equating my difficulty. Anyways,
there's a complete magical chase on eBay right now for the low price of $15,000.
Yeah, 15. I think they will take a best offer. But weird, like this has been a time where it's the only one out there right now. And they were, when we were transacting before, Stefan, like magical chases there was one sitting for $8,000. It sold and then sold finally, but it sat for a long time. And there was one that sat for like 10,000.
I'd say there was like 3 to 5 usually in some condition, constantly up.
Yep, and now it's right, like not even a card only one. Like, and you'll see some of the Japanese ones, but yeah, it's getting more difficult to find.
There's a truckload of the Japanese copies.
Yeah. So also a hard game to find on the Japanese Game Boy Color, and kind of expensive. So if you thought Magical Chase was all exclusive, anyways, go ahead.
There's also a Hero Tanma up for $17.50, which is pricey, but not like out of this world pricey. So if you're listening to this right now, buy both that Magical Chase and the Hero Tanma, and you will there's probably like 100 people watching both of those who are just gonna be super sad that they're gone now.
Yeah, so here now let's do the math on that. If you buy $15,000 Magical Chase and $1,700 Hero Tanma, right, and then your taxes and everything, you're gonna let's put that at $2,000, $15,000. So you're at $17,000. So according to price charting and Game Value Now, if you only spend $1,200 more, you'll complete the set, right, guys?
That's it.
92
well,
games.
No, this doesn't count, Johnny. We're intentionally setting new price memories, so our game that we just bought will be worth what we paid for it.
It's true.
Because that's how price.
Honestly, at this point, like if you did buy the $15,000 Magical Chase, you would likely skew the price for the next one.
Oh, absolutely. Same thing with Hero Tanma, because the last one sold for $1,250 last year.
Yeah, because there is no, at least not on the just like the looking through the sold sort. There is no American Magical Chase sale on record for eBay.
Yeah. Not super surprising. They have like almost no Stadium Events sales there either.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these transactions happen privately though, because it's a large amount of money, and why you're going to pay eBay. Like, so a lot of those sales just happen outside. That's the other thing, like people forget to take into account when a game is very expensive. You're like, why am I going to pay eBay $1,000 in fees? I can just go talk to this guy privately, and maybe I can save $1,000, or $500,
For your eBay
whatever.
bucks, Johnny, for your eBay bucks.
Yeah, for my 5% back on my credit card, right? Anyways, this is an interesting question because I think the answer has changed a lot, but do you think it's popular, Stefan, to collect for? Like, is Turbo popular right now?
I don't think so in the grand scheme of the landscape right now. I mean, I think the folks who collect it are generally the folks who've been collecting it. And so, like, again, like I mentioned earlier, I think the people who are super passionate about the Turbo are like some of the most passionate collectors of any console, right? But I think as, I mean, let's take Tyler as our sample, right? Like the more that like the Nintendo stuff, the Sega stuff is like continuing to skyrocket, people are like hyper focused on those consoles and like FOMOing everything they fucking want, that they might want before it gets out of their price ranges, so like I don't think right now people are really clamoring for the set, which is I thought maybe it would happen with when the Turbo Mini came out, but that didn't seem to do very well either. So no, I don't think it's
that
particularly
also like missed
popular.
The mark. Like it came out like too late after the mini console craze, right?
Yeah, for sure.
A little bit. I mean, it came out at the tail, but it still should have been fine.
They were just trying to emulate TurboGrafx by coming out 2 years too late as well.
Yeah. They were on brand. Tyler, what do you think? Do you think it's popular? Do you got anything to add on the popularity of this thing?
Yeah, I think this Legend of Hero Tonma on eBay right now for $17.50 says everything you need to know about the popularity of Turbografx. Because there's only one tracked sale in the past 2 years. It was last year. The box is wrecked, has writing on the back of the manual, and is sold for $1,250. And this one, it's not like near mint, but it's very good for only $17.50. 48 watchers, and none of those 48 watchers is like, oh my god, I got to buy this. It's the only really nice Hero Tonma
and the
for
COVID
sale.
boom, right? Like
And COVID,
the
yeah,
COVID
like,
effect, yeah.
Things have gotten worse since last year, and yet no one is buying this. So yeah, no one cares about Turbografx, Johnny.
Yeah. So I don't know what happened. Turbo was popping for a while. Like it was really going off like 2 years ago, right? Like you were collecting it. I was collecting it. There was other people, like we knew people. We saw a bunch of Turbo at the show. People were trying to find more Turbo to churn through. It was hot. And now it's ice cold dead.
And also I think part of that has to do with... Ice cold dead,
meaning it hasn't shot up.
Part of that I think has to do with the sort of lack of popularity of set collecting. Like within the scene, set collecting was like a thing more people did, and so Turbo for those people like me was just something they eventually got to, right? Like as they were like, okay, now what, right? As you're looking for a new set, people just eventually got to Turbo, where now there's very few, or comparatively very few set collectors, particularly like of the new blood, right? Like very few people that are set collecting, so they aren't just sort of naturally getting around to Turbografx anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're disparaging the Turbografx here more than we need to be, because I think Turbo.
No, we're not.
No, I think the Turbo is like a perfectly fine system, and it's weird because Turbo was so popular, but it was also this system that people are like, man, I really like Turbo. I'd like to collect it more, but it's so expensive. Like it used to be prohibitive, but it was prohibitive, and it was a thing people aspired to. And now the landscape has changed so much, and people are just like, I don't give a shit. I'm just surprised because Magical Chase was like one of the like grail pieces. If you could be like, I've got Magical Chase, you were a big fucking deal. Like, holy shit, that guy's got a Magical Chase? Oh my God. And now people are like, what's Magical Chase? They like to just, and the turnaround was so drastic and so quick. It's just surprising.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like the same way about Saturn. I think Saturn had a very similar turn.
Yeah, I agree.
Except for fucking Josh Byerly, apparently, who's suddenly going for the Saturn set. Good on you, Josh. You go, man. The Saturn
is a wonderfully stupid system, and I love it. Anyways, yeah, more power to Josh. Anyways, yeah, it just took a weird turn. Like now, I hear no one talking about the Turbo. Like maybe there are still pockets, and I'm just outside of it now because I kind of completed my set. But yeah, it's sad because it was so big. Anyways, let's talk about the depth of collecting. Like, how deep do people go when collecting for the Turbo? Like, are they like looking at date codes and finding out all the minutia about Turbo, or is it just like, who gives a shit? Tell me, Tyler.
I have no idea. I don't collect Turbo, Johnny. Everyone I see tries to get something, and they're like, "Oh my god, I finally got my Time Cruise box." Like, what are people collecting multiples? I've never seen anyone collect multiples of anything Turbografx.
Yeah, I don't think it's heavily tracked. I don't think people are really paying attention to the variants. I don't think people are really paying attention to all the inserts that are supposed to be in games. I don't think that collecting goes very deep. I think this is very much there are the people who passionately love it, but a lot of those people also love to play it. So that's a little different. But I think in this world that we're in now, I think it's a checkmark system.
So the people who do collect crazy passionately, like I'm sitting here thinking of like Jeff Masser and Syphic and like those people who are super into fucking
Josh,
Turbo.
And Andrew, don't forget Andrew.
Andrew.
Some TG-16.
Sure. The people who do like get granular about it, like the stuff that I see them pulling out of the woodwork, or a lot of like ancillary Turbo stuff. So like not necessarily that they're like hunting down like box variants and shit, but more of just like, oh, here's like, like the the Turbografx gameplay, the NEC gameplay counselors, which was a thing, right? They had their own binders, just like the Nintendo gameplay counselors did, pulling stuff like that out of the woodwork, pulling hats and posters
and bags and
all that shit. Like that's the stuff.
Catalog items,
right? That's the stuff that I see them like really like zeroing in on. But again, not many people who do that. But I'm just saying the people who do those are the kinds of things that I see them really kind of focusing on. Versus like obsessing over like variant minutia for the games themselves.
Well, and I think a lot of that has to do with like some of the weird, because a lot of this was mail order stuff, and you could just get from TurboZone Direct, right? So I think there was like all this weird extra stuff that was there. So that's the stuff they're pulling out. Like, what was this weird thing that sold? Like, I saw like weird mugs and stuff. Like, oh, did you hear about this one had this mug, and I really wanted this one. So people would go hard at that like stuff, but I don't think they were like really looking for variant boxes and stuff. I just saw my first Canadian variant the other day, and I know people who go deeper probably already know that, but there's not like a ton of variants. People are like, oh yeah, there's like a few, but again, there's only 94 games, so it's like less. There's just less, right? So it doesn't seem as much probably as part of the phenomenon. I don't think people go that deep. There are a specific group that does, but I think in general, other people, myself and you, Stefan, like we weren't going deep on this thing. We're just like, all right, got it, cool, done. Anyways, what else we got? Hardware variants. What do we know about hardware variants? You guys know anything about hardware variants? We got a few good ones. Tyler, I know, wants to talk about the best hardware variant for it.
The best hardware variant, the Turbo Duo, what's the best hardware variant? I don't know.
No, well, I mean, we can talk about there's a Turbo Duo, which basically combines the Turbo CD add-on. They reissued the system a couple of times. In Japan, there's like 14 different versions of the PC Engine. Also the smallest console over there, but the best one it's the module for the Laser Active, Tyler. The best hardware variant.
Oh, yes. The NEC pack for the Laser Active. We're back to something like I think is cool because Turbografx. Oh, man. Actually, first of all, I want to say you briefly mentioned the CD, something I didn't realize. Turbografx CD came out like 4 months after the Turbografx because like the PC Engine and PC Engine CD like already existed when Turbografx was a thing. So they just like immediately released a CD add-on with games for the console because I was looking at the Monsterland release date. I'm like, Monsterland came out in 1980.
Monster Lair, right?
Monster Lair release date, yes. And it was like 1989. That's weird. That's when Turbografx came out. How did a CD game already exist? Because the CD came out like the Christmas season. You would have got a Turbografx-16. There was already an expensive peripheral to get with that Turbografx-16, which in a way makes it the ultimate rich kid console, I think.
Yeah, but it was also because it came so late. So because the Turbo released here like 2 years, a little more than 2 years after the initial release in Japan is part of why that happened. But yeah, adding the CD add-on after the fact, and we'll do an episode on the CD stuff, but like, what a pain in the ass. Like you had to have the right card for the right games, and then like the Duo games wouldn't play on the CD for some of them. You had to have the whole CD stuff is a mess. And then we'll give, it won't be a super long episode, but we'll do a So You Want to Collect for those specifically, because that's its own system. And this is a question I put out to a lot of my Turbo people before, because I was like, do you consider Turbo and Turbo Duo and CD games separate? And they're like, no, it's all one system. And then I went, do you consider Genesis and Sega CD different systems? And they're like, yes, of course. I'm like, so the CD add-on for the Turbografx equals the same system, but the CD add-on for the Sega CD does not? And a bunch of their heads exploded because they did not want to do that. They were like, no.
I mean, what is the Aladdin a different system?
No.
I mean, there you go. So, and that, I mean, that's like kind of the ultimate example because the Aladdin is literally nothing. But, I track them separately, I think. Although you've made me rethink it because once you brought up not that you brought up the CD thing, but you were like, why aren't 32X games Genesis games? They're just Genesis games with like a thing in between them. And then you're making me be like, my Genesis set's incomplete because I don't have like half the 32X games. You're making me feel bad over here, Johnny.
Yeah,
so let's track them separately, and then I don't have to worry about stupid ass 32X games that I'm never gonna look at even.
Hey, there's some really good, fine, okay-ish. There's some really
you better
collectible...
start walking that back now, sir.
There's definitely a collectible game on the on the 32X.
Yeah, Spider-Man, because we love Spider-Man games now.
And Deion Sanders and Pitfall apparently got collectible.
Cool.
Fucking Pitfall, guys.
Okay.
I mean, and I love
it's
Pitfall.
Not Pitfall.
Like,
it's not Super Pitfall either. What is it?
Anyways, who cares? We're not talking about that,
Johnny.
That washed up system. We're talking about this.
Johnny, one. I also want to disagree with you on the most interesting, or at least like coolest hardware variant.
Well, and Tower hasn't got to talk a lot about it yet, but go on.
No. Go ahead, Tyler.
No, go ahead, Stefan. Finish what you were going to say.
The Turbo Express, man. The Turbo Express is the best.
No, like we'll get to the Turbo Express, but that's not cooler than the module because the laser active. I mean, who cares about the laser active? Now, I'm going to let Tyler talk about it, but like, I can see your point, and I think a lot of people will agree with you. I'll say that.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that later.
Tyler,
why are we talking out of order? All right, the laser. Everyone knows the laser active is a super common console. It's basically a Laserdisc player that can play certain Laserdisc video games, but for whatever stupid-ass reason, it had an expansion port, and they made expansion modules for both the Sega Genesis and the Turbografx-16 for whatever reason, so you could plug a HuCard and a Turbografx controller into your Laseractive and play Turbografx games
branded controllers too. Branded Pioneer controllers.
You got it. Yeah, you have to get that branded Pioneer Laseractive controller, or you're not cool. Again, similar to like Magical Chase being the coolest thing ever, Johnny. I remember people on forums talking about these Laseractive packs. I'm sure it stands for.
I'm part of that old man crew who's still like Magical Chase and Laseractive are so cool.
People thought this was the coolest shit ever. If you had an NEC pack, you were the coolest fucking person on Digipress or something.
You were like, oh my god, you were how did you get that? And I still have like this weird like, one day I gotta get me a Laseractive. Like where the hell, like, and I hate shit like that. Where would I even put it? It's gigantic.
I hate
Laserdiscs.
So for people who aren't aware, the Laseractive, it's its core, it's a Laserdisc player that also plays games. But it looks just like a fucking Pioneer Laserdisc player. And so like you have to actually pay attention to like what the model number is on the fucking front of the thing. So there have been many cases, not in recent memory, but like where people will find them at thrift stores, because if it's one thing that thrift stores has a shit ton of in their electronics department, it's fucking Laserdisc players. So I have never bought one because I still have this fantasy in my head that one day I'm going to walk into a thrift store and find a Laseractive, because it doesn't happen completely infrequently, or it didn't.
I have the same fantasy, Stefan.
Because they just sit there for fucking years, because nobody, unless you're, again, looking for the Laseractive, you won't notice it among the, like, 12,000 other Laserdisc players in your Goodwill. So that is why I have not bought a Laseractive, because I have this fantasy of finding one in a thrift store. Another big inhibitor, like the Laseractive, I want to play Laseractive games, like the big Laserdisc games, and Tyler will tell you like some cool stuff about this in a minute. But
jeez,
yeah, you have a tidbit that I'm gonna let you talk about. But the box art is not box art. It's just like if you went to Best Buy and bought a speaker. It's just a brown box that you open up, and knowing it just says, like, if you've ever bought a receiver from Best Buy, it's just like, this is a Sony X300. Like, that's all it is. There's no box art. There's no cool game on it. You're just like, this is the most
I think
boring
CDI was
brown
the same
box.
way, though, right?
Yep.
Yeah, because it's
so boring.
You're not buying a video game machine. It's a serious piece of AV equipment.
Yeah,
you're buying a Pioneer Laseractive. We're not advertising to kids with colors.
Yeah, but that I'm just saying, like, if it had cool art on it, and like, or even if the module packs like showed like some sweet turbo art or something on it, I would have been way more inclined to buy that. Tell me that you guys aren't the same with that.
Sure.
No,
Right.
what?
Like, if
There's
the
no
system-
stage in my life, whether it would be like 1992 or now, that would be like, I really need a complete in box laser active because of that art on that box.
Well, no, like even if I'm just saying, like even if you didn't buy the laser active, if just the modules that were to play games had like some cool game art on it or something, or like branding, like I would have been way more inclined. I can't believe you wouldn't be way more
Okay,
inclined. But I also
I've never even seen a pack like complete in box, so I don't know.
It's just another brown box. It doesn't matter.
I mean, they're like, to put it in perspective, like they're like $800. They're like the NEC one's like $800, and then the Sega one's cheaper, and the controller's more common for the Sega one. Maybe because those are all Japanese and I'm just not realizing it, but
or maybe because the Genesis sold a F-ton of games and made an F-ton of games, and the TurboGrafx has 94.
Imagine having a laser active Laserdisc player, and you're like, you know what, I need to play some TurboGrafx games on the, like, it's just the two most obscurest things put together. It's such a beautiful part.
I told you,
I
had one friend. He had the stupid laser active, and he had the laser disc player too. And like, he was clearly a rich kid because like his sport of choice was hockey in Southern California. Like, so clearly there was just money to be had there. That all he did was play. Like, he's like, oh, let's watch some laser discs and stuff. And this is 1994. And it's like, oh yeah, and we can play video games on it. And I did not understand what was happening the first time I saw it. And I was like, wait, you can play a TurboGrafx on this? And it's like, or a Genesis. And it's the only time I've ever seen both of them together in person in my life. And he's like, yeah, you just plug this in and we can play it. And it was blowing my mind. I was like 15 and I was just like, I don't understand what is happening here.
And
I was like, how is this doing this?
The pack allows you to play the Super CD games too, because the Laser Active has the tiny little CD tray that pops out if you don't want the full Laserdisc tray. Laser Active's so cool. I wish we were doing a Laser Active episode instead, Johnny.
We'll do. Man, I need someone else to do a Laser Active episode because I don't know enough about it.
No one does. Are you kidding me?
I know.
So again, I'm talking about the olden days on forums. I saw people buying and selling Laser Active games who they didn't own a Laser Active. They were selling the games to people who didn't own a Laser Active just because the concept of owning a Laser Active game that's not like Pyramid Patrol is like, it's cool to own a Laser Active game because no one has them.
Yeah, there's one that I've considered getting for the Halloween set to show in October. I'm like, man, I think this one qualifies, and I can now justify buying a Laser Active game. And I do regret not buying all the Laser Active games before.
I don't...
It's like my old man regret. Like, it shows how deep and old I am, and like the forums I was in, because I'm like, I am tuned to be like, regret about Laser Active? That's
I don't
weird.
think you can even regret it. We're talking about Laser Active, Johnny. But like the games that I see selling, they don't seem to have a lot of price differentiation between them. Like they're like $100, $200 for a lot of them. And again, $100, $200 for these games that are probably very rare. It just seems like you got to wait for him to come up.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a concerted effort too. Like maybe one day.
Do you guys know if...
Anyways...
One thing that I wanted to mention about the Laser Active module real quick, if you're going to buy one, is I know that this is 100% the case for the Genesis module, and I'm not 100% sure that it's also true for the Laser Active one, but probably, since it's the same manufacturer, is that the modules have a shitload of capacitors in them, like a ridiculous amount of capacitors in them, and they all fucking blow. So the likelihood of you finding one that's working may be difficult. And then fixing them is like a pain in the ass only from the sheer volume of capacitors. I know that's definitely the case with the Genesis one. It's got a shitload of capacitors in it.
Well, I mean, the Turbo Duo too blows up all the time. You gotta, if it's the same capacitors that they were using in like the other Turbo stuff, those capacitors are not known for their longevity.
Yep. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. Although maybe, there are people who have no problem changing caps out for people for a cost. So it may behoove you to buy a broken one anyway, but.
Okay. So Tyler, there was a couple of things we found out about like specific Laser Active games though that need the modules.
Johnny, you keep like prompting me for something as if we've planned out what I'm going to talk about. What there are laser active games that require you to have the NEC pack. That's all
Which
I know.
Is cool.
What is that cool?
I mean, what? Yeah, that's like, think about it. So there's this laser disc, right? So it's not specifically a Turbografx game, right? So it takes the laser disc portion of the laser active, but it requires the turbo pack. So does that make it a Turbografx game?
Yeah, does it count?
See, well, we're not talking about the Turbografx CD games, Johnny.
We're not, but this is not a CD. It's a laser disc, and it's using the Hue card. It's using the Hue card technology the disc. It's a weird thing, and does it count?
So, Johnny, I've got an excellent comparison for this. How do you count the 32X CD games? However you count the 32X CD games, I think you should count the laser active NEC games the same way.
There's a difference, and I will tell you. Those ones are branded very specifically. It says, 32X/CD, and I have them in their own little compartment. They're all together. So they all stick together. These ones aren't branded. It doesn't say, like, in big letters that you need, like, it doesn't say Turbografx, laser disc game. Like, it doesn't do that.
I don't know how it works, Johnny. Because it's like Pyramid Patrol says it requires the Sega pack, but it doesn't say anything on the packaging that requires it. So how would people know?
I don't know, because I did not have the money to have a laser active back then.
Someone who knows how laser active works, please tell us how the laser active works so we can do a laser active episode. VG Collectaholic, you probably have laser active, right?
Yeah, probably.
Oh,
I mean, definitely does.
So, all right, I'm looking at Pyramid Patrol, which is like by far the most common laser active game. Nothing on the front. You turn it onto the back, and in the tiny little text at the bottom, like where it would have like if it was a movie, it would be like rated R, and then all the text that you don't read. In the tiny little text, it says this disc is required to be played on a Mega LD player system only. That's it. Yeah. You gotta be really careful when you're buying your laser active games back in the day that you got the required hardware to play them.
Man, could you imagine getting that home and then not being able to play it? What a disappointment.
The logo says Laser Active Mega LD.
Look, though, if you are a laser active enthusiast at the time, you're used to being disappointed. Let's be fair.
Very true. I'm just saying, nowadays there'd be a BuzzFeed article about the ripoff that was happening and all the disappointed children.
Yeah.
Anyways,
there would definitely be a petition to sign.
So aside from like some holiday branded boxes, which came with like there was some pack-ins, like they said, 2 free games included. So there was some boxes with stickers that came, and then there was like a holiday pack-in which had like a slipcover go over the turbo box, which like made it seem like a Christmas deal. The other big piece of new hardware that was like a console variant, and as Stefan says, he thinks is the most exciting, is the Turbo Express, which is an exciting thing because it was the Switch before the Switch, I guess. Kind of.
It was the Nomad before the Nomad. I think was probably
Nomad,
a more fair.
More fair.
Wait, what's the difference between calling it a Switch and a Nomad? Because both have video out? All of them have video out. Because
there's with the Nomad and the Express, you're taking a console that was not originally portable and you're making it portable. Okay. With the Switch, all right, it's just sense. A fucking portable console.
I mean, it's they're all in the same realm. But anyways, this thing is pretty cool. It's like there's a bunch of accessories you can get for it. You can watch TV on it. You can play video games on it. You can get a radio tuned to it. Like
sure can.
man, you can do all the things if you have all the batteries in the world, or you're like everyone else who bought the, just the AC pack and you just sat down and sat by a wall plug and you're like, cool, I can take this thing anywhere, but not really. Like, but it did it. It played the actual, you didn't have to buy a new thing. You didn't have to buy a Game Boy game. You had all the best games with you at all times.
Yeah, all you didn't have to, and you weren't like slumming it in the handhelds, like you didn't, you weren't getting a less than experience on the go. You were just literally getting the console. I don't know that we
color. First color.
I don't know that we mentioned it at the top of like what the Express actually is, but it is a handheld Turbografx-16. That is like straight up. It is the console in handheld.
Yep, it's a chunky little monkey, and it does all kinds of things. But like I said, the main thing it does is eat batteries.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Stefan said it's not a lesser experience. I've never owned a Turbo Express. I'm gonna guess it's a lesser experience because it runs on AA's.
Yeah, the biggest problem with it is the sound in them always goes out. They're pretty fragile. Like, if you've got one with sound, congratulations. But this thing is just, it's meant to not have sound, I guess.
I will say that Game Gear is very similar in that regard. But I will say that in the modern Turbo Express connoisseur, just like many of the handhelds, there are screen mods and there are battery mods and there are audio mods. Everything you want to mod this thing to hell to actually make it reasonable to play on the go. So
or just buy any of these other portable systems and have and emulate your Turbo games and have it be thin and not worry about all this bullshit.
No,
like you're like,
hardware, Johnny,
I need the original hardware that I'm not going to make not so original.
What podcast are you on?
As I Frankenstein this system. You're like, what have you done to this thing?
No,
it's got more new parts than old parts.
I love my modded handhelds. They're awesome.
You are so dumb.
No.
All right.
Love them.
Anyways, that's the major, I think, hardware variants. There's, some other minor stuff, but I think this was all the big stuff. Anything you want to add on that, guys?
As we mentioned before, there are all of the hardware variants in Japan. So if you want hardware variants, there's plenty in Japan.
Okay, so because this is not a super big library, Tyler, tell me about some games that are on the edge. Are there any? Do we have any weird competition carts or max carts? Is there anything weird for this system?
Yes, Johnny. That would be the system card for the CD.
The Super System card?
Does it count? It's a Hue card.
It's not a game.
That's the only thing on the edge of this. Well, whatever. Compton's Encyclopedia is not a game.
Well, I mean, it's a debate to have. I don't count it. You want to pay like $300 for a Super System?
There are maniacs out there who are like, you need to have Dreamcast web browser, Dreamcast web browser 2.0.
I was that maniac.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I think I have them on my set list. I'm just saying, someone out there has the Super System card on their list of TurboGrafx.
Absolutely, they absolutely do.
But I mean, obviously, you need to own it. It's not like something you can skip owning if you're a TurboGrafx fan. But does it count in the list is a different thing.
Does it count
that card was exactly why I decided to get the Turbo Duo over the Transformer version of doing all this. That card was the major incentive for me, because if you buy the Turbo Duo, that card is actually already in the system BIOS.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
You don't need it.
It's just better. Turbo Duo is the way to go anyways. I'm
pretty sure a modded PC Engine Duo is the way to go. Just in terms of price.
Get the fuck out of here.
What the fuck? You're going to be buying PC Engine games anyway. Just saying.
So, there are also there's some weird Japanese import porn games for this system that are require the Hue card go in and also have a CD. So that's a weird one. That's a combo. There's a High Leg Fantasy or something is one of them. So I've showed that.
Yeah, you've talked about that before, but is that a PC Engine game or is that a Turbo game?
I mean, it's PC Engine, but I'm just saying, on things on the edge of these systems, that people will try to play or on modded systems. There's just some weird stuff out there like that. Not too much unlicensed stuff either, really only for the CD.
There's a pretty reasonable homebrew.
We'll get to that. We'll get to the homebrew stuff, but this is that's a different topic. This is on the edge. The unlicensed games portion though is just really that aren't homebrew are the porn Hawaiian games. I'm not sure if those count. I counted them in my set list when I was doing the CD, but these are CD games, so we don't even need to talk about them here.
Yeah.
I would say I see a lot of people include them. It's with Sega Genesis, no one parses out the unlicensed stuff. I see a lot of people include these on their TurboGrafx CD lists.
But
NES having an unlicensed game is the most important thing in the world. that you don't have to own it because it's unlicensed.
Well, and again, like my delineation there is like everything I think about for the Nintendo is about nostalgia. But since I didn't have a TurboGrafx as a kid, I'm more of an explorer and I want to find out more about the system. It's not about recapturing nostalgia. It's about, seeing what the system is and does. With the Nintendo and Super Nintendo, I don't care about any of that stuff because I just want the things that I saw and had as a kid. It's feeding two different things. That's how my brain has separated them.
All right.
Anyways, let's talk about the games now. God, we've talked a lot. We haven't even really got to the games. What are the launch games? Someone tell me the launch games.
Johnny, it's Keep Courage, which you got with your system, and then Victory Run, Legendary Axe, and Alien Crush. Legendary Axe and Alien Crush also being some of the most popular games in the system, and the reason they're not expensive is because they're probably the only games people bought, and then they're like, fuck this, I'm going to get a Super Nintendo. Probably. I'm sorry to disparage you Turbografx people. I don't know how you thought. And then the last game on the system, Johnny, was maybe... So the last Hue card is probably up in the air. It's probably unknowable. But Bonk 3, maybe? Because Bonk 3 was the last CD game, which was only sold via mail order via TurboZone Direct. So maybe the Hue card was the last? I don't know.
Maybe. Also, Bonk 3 has the weird distinction of only having the only game Hue card to have the Duo packaging on it. Also, the box is a little different because it has like a purple edge, and it's the only box with a purple edge. It's like a unique style, like unique coloring. It's a weird layout that just didn't happen in the other boxes. Every
single other game, every other box has a black edge? Or are there some?
No, there's some with a white edge.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of different colors that I can get into. I'll get into the minutia of all that at the very end because I just think that's the stuff people are going to care about the least.
Okay.
Yeah.
Feel free to turn off this episode at any time before we get to the less interesting stuff that's coming up right now.
Tyler, that's a Tyler joke. What I'm going to translate Tyler. He says, all this shit is boring. You could have stopped listening at any point. Because Turbografx is stupid. That's not me. That's Tyler. Okay. Anyways, Stefan, tell me some of the most expensive games for this system.
Some of the most expensive games, Johnny.
Yeah, tell me the most expensive one. Tell me that, like the one everybody knows.
We've talked about Magical Chase a bunch thus far. Right now, like I said earlier, you can buy one a complete copy on eBay right now for the low price of $15,000. I don't think. Again, this is one of those ones that sell so infrequently. Like I said, the eBay didn't really have any tracked sales. That I can't give you like a recent sale price for it. But it is going to be up there in the probably, if you want a complete copy over, it's going to be a 5-digit number. I know I would hazard to guess right now somewhere in the neighborhood of like 3,000, 3,500 for a loose Hue card there.
And 6K is what I estimated around that, 6 to 7 for CIC, a bastardized CIC, basically the card in the manual.
Sure.
Anyways, tell me some other expensive games.
Yeah, we got Hero Tanma is up there, in the low 4-digit, 1,000, 1,500, right, somewhere around there. And Bonk 3, as we just were talking about, and then so what? We're talking like $3,000 complete, maybe ish.
No, Bonk is a little. I think Bonk's only like 1,000.
Okay. I disagree.
Maybe even.
I couldn't find a sale for one, and I saw one for sale for $3,300 right now. It's the only one I could find.
Oh, really? Okay, fair.
Right. Then rounding out the list there is Shockman at the bottom.
Yeah. That was like $700, I think, the most recent one. And guys, I'm just going to caveat this whole thing. The boxes and the condition could swing any number of games into the top of this list that aren't there. I've seen heavyweight boxing sell for like $500. What's the track meet game that we talked about? That game I've seen be expensive before. It varies. So, and it can
World Sports Competition, right?
Yeah. Thank you. Could not think of the name, but yeah. So that It depends. I've seen Hudson's Adventure Island sell for $500. I had someone offer me $900 for my Chu Man Fu as a private sale, which I told them no. So Bomberman 3 or 93 has been like an expensive game. It could be any of these. There's a bunch of games it could be. So
Darkwing Duck gets really expensive sometimes.
Yeah,
Jackie and it's
Chan
a horrible
gets really,
game.
Yeah,
it's such a bad game.
Yeah, Jackie Chan gets really expensive. Newtopia we know, or Newtopia 2 we know can be like $1,000. So guys, it's in the range. Like, so, forgive some of the ambiguity there. And again, that's in box.
It's so crazy that we're talking about these prices. I mean, all right, so all these prices, again, like video games for $1,000 is still crazy. But thinking about like, oh, well, someone probably paid $4,000 for a God of War recently, and that's more expensive than like basically every TurboGrafx game except for Magical Chase.
Yeah.
And it's like thought of as like the ultra expensive console.
Yeah.
And now it's just Xbox games sell for more than that.
Yeah. Who cares? Like, did you see how much I paid for a sealed Tomb Raider? Yikes. A lot more than you would probably pay for a sealed Magical Chase. That's weird. Think about that. Do you think a sealed Magical Chase would sell for less than that sealed Tomb Raider 1 went for?
No. Because Josh Barley has one, right? I think he wants $250,000 for it. Go get it, guys.
Okay. But I'm just saying, like, look at how all the sealed Saturn games and Sega CD games went for.
Yeah.
You know what, Johnny? See if he'll budge on his price. See if he's really looking to get rid of it. I think he just jumped into this market looking to get rich quick. He'll budge.
Yeah.
Or you know what? Better yet, just go find another one. There are a couple people who have them, right?
I'm gonna give him the heritage price. So it's gonna only sell so it's gonna sell for roughly 200 or 300 less than it would sell for on eBay complete. That's how dumb it gets sometimes. Anyways, are there any games that we are talking about that we think are actually rare? Or is this all just kind of nebulous aside from
Magical Chase is legit for the US copy? It's like it is fairly common on the Japanese SKU, but the US SKU is genuinely rare.
Yeah, I mean, and again, finding any of these complete can be rare. So I'm not sure what I've had people tell me, like I said, Chu Man Fu, Bomberman 93. Legend of Hirotoma, like usually the rarity and the price have something, there's more correlation on this system than other ones.
Yeah. And again, manuals for those last 20 are shitty.
Yeah. And if you want to find everything that's super nice, again, who knows? All right. Tyler, tell me about in-demand games or key franchises. I know we've already talked about a bunch of them, but just remind everybody.
Well, Johnny, let me tell you every TurboGrafx game that I've ever played, because I'm pretty sure I've only ever played the most popular TurboGrafx games. I haven't played Magical Chase. Stefan put that one on the list. Stefan won't stop talking about Magical Chase. I'm pretty sure Stefan doesn't have a Magical Chase. You would think he has one. I think he sold it to you, right? Or was it the other way around?
No, he sold it to me.
Yeah. Stefan, you're still a very big fan of Magical Chase. You should not have sold it. Bonk 1, 2, and 3. Not the only trilogy. Is it the only trilogy? Is the Soldier trilogy in America? There's Final Soldier. There's Soldier Blade. I don't know, Johnny. Bonk 1 is it's a mediocre platform game that has a huge reception because he's the mascot character. Sells for $100 complete in box, which is very expensive, but not too bad, I guess. Bonk 2, I think, is a much better game than Bonk 1. Also sells for about $100. Bonk 3, I've never played because it goes for like $3,000. Who knows? $500 complete in case if you want. And then Airzonk is a shooter, which Stefan is about to chime in and say that he loves, which is $400 or $500 complete in box.
It is really good.
And it is part of the Bonk series.
No, it's not.
Zonk
it's part of the Zonk series.
No, but Bonk... Huh? Bonk becomes Zonk in the future.
Yep.
I'm trying to. I have to think of a counterexample. I don't know about that, Johnny.
Yeah,
because the Mario series is different from the Super Mario series. So how come the Zonk series can't be different from the Bonk series?
No, the Mario series isn't different than the Super Mario series. And all these people who want to finally dice like what the Super Mario, like, oh no, that's not a true Super Mario game. That is some dumbass shit. When they're like, oh, Super Mario 64 is not one of the Super Mario games. Fuck you. Yes, it is.
Johnny, I literally want to do an episode on that. I want to debate the Super Mario series.
I know you do.
That's it's gonna be so much fun.
No, it's dumb.
Oh,
the game called Super Mario 64 isn't a Super Mario game.
No, that's stupid.
Are you insane?
What do you do with Super Paper Mario? Because it's like kind of a platformer. I don't think it counts, but I mean, it's called Super Paper Mario. I mean, super.
It's all in the same world. It's like dumbass shit. Anyways, go on. Stefan, tell us how much you like Airzone. Go.
I do love Airzone. That was one of the what you and I played it, and then I immediately went and bought a copy.
Yep, and then we played through Super Airzone because I just bought it and brought it over.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You brought over the American copy, and then I was I was like, oh, I'll buy that too. And then I looked at the price. I'm like, fuck that. So I bought the Japanese copy, and I still have that. Yeah.
Nice. Anyways, go on.
Blazing Lasers, another often thought of as the best TurboGrafx game. I don't really know. Amazing shooter, $150 to $200. This game used to be absolutely dirt common, cost nothing, like $40. But Blazing Lasers and Soldier Blade, which would be my next one. Soldier Blade, the definitive best game on TurboGrafx, at least in America. I don't know. I haven't played every... what am I talking about? I haven't played every TurboGrafx game. I'm literally telling you every TurboGrafx game I've played. That game, the last copy went for $400. It wasn't in like mint shape. And just because of that game's reputation, I feel like it could go for more. So who knows? Splatterhouse. Johnny will say the game for everyone.
Yep, everyone loves Splatterhouse.
Sure. The port of the arcade game. It's a game where you walk to the right and hit guys with a machete. That is Splatterhouse.
Or a piece of lumber.
And it's got gore, and it's got that cool level with the mirrors. And the level where you look like you're in guts. Like the house looks like it's all guts. I don't like it. Gross. Yep. Good one to pick up for your Halloween posts coming up soon, guys.
Already got it.
The last, do I have a complete in-box copy, or did I get complete in case? I don't know how cheap I was when I bought Splatterhouse, but complete in-box copies, about $200.
I can't wait to show my new Splatterhouse edition to everyone this Halloween.
We're not spoiling it. It's the LCD game, right?
Yeah, I mean,
like you've already said that on the show.
Yeah.
Legendary Axe, and I guess Legendary Axe 2, we're going to have a bit of a... For the last three, we're going to have a theme going on, in that the sequels are very similar to the original. Legendary Axe, like $100. Newtopia. Here we go. Like, we're getting into, like, why I'm not, like, the biggest TurboGrafx fan. So Legendary Axe, absolutely a game, like, people associate with the TurboGrafx, and it's, like, a very good action platformer. But in my anti-TurboGrafx biased personal view, like I like Legendary Axe, but it's not Ninja Gaiden. It's not Ninja Gaiden 3. Newtopia, a game people compare to Zelda, it's not even in the same universe as being as good as a Zelda game. It's a fine game, not as good as Zelda. It's like $130. And then Alien Crush and Devil Crush. Alien Crush, about $100 complete in box. Devil Crush, about $200. They're pinball games, guys.
Yeah, they're awesome too.
Games. Is there anyone have a fun fact about pinball games on the TurboGrafx?
Oh yeah, cue fun fact. Okay, we're gonna get into the colors later and what they mean, but it's very much like the original NES, where they're like, "This is the Adventure series" or whatever, right? So they're color coded, and Devil's Crush and Alien Crush are color coded in the Action series. They are purple. But, and the only one, at least in America, Time Cruise is dark, has the dark blue band on it, and it is labeled as a pinball game.
You heard it here first. Alien Crush and Devil Crush are not pinball games.
Yeah, thanks, Turbo.
They're action games with strong pinball elements, like Odama on GameCube, of course. Definitely not a pinball game.
But they are not a pinball game. The only pinball game is Time Cruise. That's a
okay,
fact.
so Johnny, that's literally every TurboGrafx game I think I've played in the American
that's
side. Is there anyone that
Johnny.
you would call another game that is an in-demand key franchise?
Yep, I got one.
Ooh.
As far as like I think it's in demand, and I also think and I also think it's excellent. One of the best games on the platform, actually, in my opinion, and that's Ninja Spirit. I think it's a fantastic side scroller, but definitely one that like I would. That's one of like the only games that I saved when I sold everything off. I love that game a lot, and I think it's absolutely worth sitting down with, especially if you like Ninja Gaiden, Tyler, because it's ninjas.
I'm going to throw in two others. I'm going to throw in two others real quick.
All right.
I'm going to throw in R-Type and Raiden.
Yep.
But Tyler would pronounce it Raidan. So.
What?
Because Gaiden and Gaiden, I'm making a joke.
I didn't ding me.
I know.
Okay, I don't know.
There's the joke. We found the joke. That's not your fault. You have to be looking at the spelling. So I'm being stupid. Just ignore me.
Also very good.
Anyways, those are like our popular shooters, and they cross platforms. And people mention them. Anyways, but I think your list was more correct than my additions there. I mean, there's other ones like people like Turbo, so some of these games get some nameplay. Anyways, recommended games. You just recommended one, but recommended games that you would tell people if they were buying it that aren't some of these the key franchise ones. Like if you wanted to go a little deeper into the library, is there anything else? And that's kind of what you were just doing, Stefan. But is there anything else you would recommend that they buy? Like just like maybe one or two like that we haven't talked about. Do you have any? And it's fine if you don't.
I'm thinking. I mean, Keith Courage isn't the worst game. I
mean, you don't need to buy
have
Keith
a copy
Courage.
of Keith Courage when you buy
that's what I'm saying.
Over.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, it's so incredibly common. Like
Stefan, I would venture to bet if you are going to buy a TurboGrafx console, you probably just already have a copy of Keith Courage because you're like, oh, a TurboGrafx game. Let me buy that.
That's right. God, what am I? Fantasy Zone is good. Solid.
Yeah, Fantasy Zone's fine.
I would definitely. I mean, we didn't. I mean, it's expensive, and we didn't. I don't think we mentioned it, but Soldier Blade is excellent.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Don't buy 8 shitty games. Just go get Soldier Blade. It's the best game of the 10 games I've played on TurboGrafx-16.
It's really good. Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu is pretty decent, but it's not platform specific. There's certainly other ways you can play that game.
So that's if you were. That's if you want to play. What else, Tyler? What do you got for collecting purposes, though? Anything or
for everything? Just get Soldier Blade because it's both collectible and amazing.
Okay.
And there's only so many games we can recommend because there's like 94 games. Like, what are you going to look at on a list of like hidden gems of the TurboGrafx-16?
Oh, I don't know. Just look up
Bravo
Metal
Man.
Jesus. Metal Jesus will tell you exactly what the hidden gems are, so don't worry about it. There's
I
already
like
a video
Kadash
for it.
now that I'm thinking about it. Kadash is good.
Yeah, everyone likes Kadash. You can play it on the Genesis too. So I will say those are all good suggestions. I was saying if you were collecting, and like if you had an eye towards collecting, you just wanted to get a few Turbo games. One, spend the money, get some of the better stuff because that's like the name recognition carries those. But I would say definitely pick up, even though they're not good games, Darkwing Duck and Talespin because I just think those have like collectible name
Talespin is
recognition.
awful. I forgot. I completely forgot about Talespin. It is awful.
Yeah, so, and then the other one I would say is New Adventure Island. So
yeah. I see New Adventure Island. I think that's cool. I don't know. You're recommending Talespin as a collectible game to buy. Yeah. The Collector's Quest podcast has gone off the rails.
No, look, not because it's good. I'm like saying if you were like, oh, I just want to like a pile of games that people recognize because people equate it to the Nintendo Disney games. You know, they just see the Disney logo and they're just like, oh, and that was probably Chippendale, and now I can go get Tailskin and Darkwing Duck as well. And they're not the same. It's not. Yeah. It's
Darkwing
not
Duck
the same
on the
quality.
NES, pretty okay. Darkwing Duck on the Turbo is
not good.
Fucking horseshit.
Not good. But I'm just saying, like a collectible entity. I think it's a collectible entity.
I disagree. I mean, no, I agree, but you're comparing it to NES, which has like DuckTales, Mickey Mouse, Rescue Rangers, and now you get Darkwing Duck and Tailspin, two B-listers.
But
come on.
But if you B-listers, they're like D-listers.
Okay, I'm making sure. You know, I didn't know if you were a Talespin fan. I didn't want to tell you the truth that Talespin is a D-list show.
Yeah. Well, Talespin is
fuck
the
you. Talespin is an amazing show.
No, Talespin is the worst of the Disney actors.
Yeah. All
Chip
right, let's
and
get
Dale.
into it. Talespin's a D-list show.
Absolutely. Bullshit.
I want to make sure we're not talking about the games here, guys. We're talking about the franchise.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so now that we're kind of on it, what's your Disney afternoon show? What's your number one?
I mean, obviously it's Chippendale, but I still love the hell out of Talespin.
Okay, so all right, Talespin better than Darkwing?
No.
Better than DuckTales?
No.
So what is it better than?
So it's the D-lister.
Nothing. It's awful. It's the worst one.
No, how can the worst Disney afternoon show equal awful? Like that's
awful.
No.
It's
They're
also
just
got
all
the worst
good.
theme song.
They're
Look,
just
I
all
love all the
good.
theme songs, but the stupid Tailspin one, you're like so stupid. What is this?
Yeah, and a little bit racist.
Why am I
It's a little bit
hearing
racist.
this? Oh, you're like, shut the fuck up. All that. Chip and Dale has got the best theme song. Darkwing Duck's got a fire theme song.
DuckTales, you have like people singing in the streets if you put it on.
Exactly. Fucking Tailspin people, it doesn't even have words until later and people don't know what they are.
I'm just saying
Tailspin
that
is garbage.
Just because it's the worst of the Disney afternoon shows doesn't mean that it's a bad show.
Go fly
it's
a plane
amazing.
and
Jungle Book character. It's so dumb.
Kind of Jungle Book characters.
No, it's the
then,
fucking Jungle Book characters.
Yeah, and like what is he doing? Like what? Oh, you're a glorified mailman who lets a kid sky surf, and you answer to your boss who kind of hates you and loves you, but you're incompetent, Baloo? Get out of here. Tailspins can go to hell.
Wow.
I just want to say, Johnny, the reason this came up, Talespin being a D-list Disney afternoon show, you brought it up on the Collector's Quest podcast as a recommended collectible because it's a Disney franchise that people will like to collect.
Yes.
And it's expensive, I think, right? Isn't it expensive? No, the Darkwing one is expensive, but I don't think it.
I don't know. How much did they cost? Tyler brought prices for all of his games.
Well, didn't you write that in too? Yeah. Like, there's just not... Yeah, it's definitely the worst. What else was in the Disney afternoon? Gummy Bears?
The Quack Pack?
I think it's kind of phased out,
what's
right?
the goofy one?
Goof Troop.
That came kind of later.
I like Goof Troop.
Yeah.
Not as much as Chippendale. Let's get
Gummy
Gummy
Bears is better.
Gargoyles was Disney afternoon.
Better.
I don't know what the Gummy Bears thing is.
Gummy Bears was great.
Too young for that.
We've talked about
Bouncing here and there and everywhere? No?
No
High
idea.
Adventure
High Adventures that are beyond compare. They're the Gummy Bears. I used to, like, when I was a kid, I used to try to do impressions of the Gummy Bears, like, especially, what's his name? Not Tubby, the gruff one. I forget his name.
Yeah. Crap. I don't remember his name either.
I don't remember, but it's been a long time. But he talked like this, Tubby Gummy. Yeah, that voice. Anyways, yeah, like maybe Bonkers I don't like as much, but
I didn't even remember that the show
I don't know what Bonkers is. Bonkers is the Genesis
Bonkers
game, right?
Yeah, it's just after. There's like things that were after.
He was
like
they
a police
officer, Bobcat, something.
Yeah, I mean they definitely didn't have the same appeal, but like people count the Aladdin series and like Quack Pack but like the original ones, Gummy Bears was like first, and then like I think for me it goes down to Goof Troop and Gargoyles and then kind of ends.
Yeah, there was
in that list.
There's a Lion King one at some point too, right?
Yeah,
like,
Timon and Pumbaa.
Timon and Pumbaa. Yeah.
Yeah, but like to me, in that list, Tailspin definitely the worst. Just saying. Yep.
Over the expanded list? Do you think it's
the expanded list?
You think Bonkers is a better show?
Probably. I don't know. I can't confirm or deny that. Like Mighty Ducks is probably a worse one.
Ooh, was Winnie the Pooh one of those? Because Winnie the Pooh was fucking excellent.
No, Winnie the Pooh was a Saturday morning cartoon, and was probably in syndication other, but it wasn't part of Disney Afternoon.
Fucking excellent. God, that show was so good.
Yeah. Anyways, we are way off topic.
I don't even care.
But,
you see how excited we get when we're not talking about the TurboGrafx? Someone clicked on this. They're like, yeah, they're going to talk about the TurboGrafx. And then it's like, yeah, Talespin's a D-list show.
I like the TurboGrafx, but yeah, Talespin. I mean, now we definitely have to show Talespin in the cover picture, Tyler.
Yeah,
I'll send you a picture.
Let me just go take a picture of that copy of Talespin I have.
I have it. I'll send you a picture of it so you can put it in the thing.
All right.
That and Darkwing Duck and Magical Chase. This is the games we're talking about for Turbo.
Put Magical Chase in the back, though.
Yeah, absolutely. As we're ranking things. Anyways, any games, I think you covered it, Tyler. An expensive game that's worth it that you wanted to recommend?
Yeah. Guys.
You said
Soldier Blade. Or if you're too cheap to get Soldier Blade, at least get like Blazing Lasers.
Yeah.
Still really good.
At one point, I would put Magical Chase on that list. Like, I think it's a really solid shooter.
I mean, it's so expensive. It's a fun game. Like, definitely go play it, but probably emulate. Like
when it was like really $1,000, fine.
Yeah,
I feel
it has been
for like a couple thousand, even
time.
if it was a couple $1,000s, that's literally like any arcade PCB of any shooter. So unless it's like the best shooter ever made, I would not recommend it. But I haven't played it, so I don't know.
It's like 2007, 2006. I think it was still $2,000 or more.
Sure, but then you could probably get the arcade PCBs for like $400.
Yeah, absolutely. There's other ways to play this game. Anyways, not worth it. I don't have one. I mean, I like Splatterhouse, but you can get the Splatterhouse experience anywhere. I like yours. Okay, collectory stuff. Variants and cool corner case stuff. You got any, Tyler?
Did we point out that Bonk 3 came on a CD? We did.
Yeah.
No, there's the free Bonk thing. So I honestly only know this because there's cases of Bonk's Adventure that are the free Bonk with a purchase. So these were the ones that you got when you bought a TurboGrafx. Yeah. They would give you a copy of Bonk's Adventure.
It was the 2 free game. Yeah, it was that and Bonk. It was the 2 Bonk games.
Yep. So that's just a sticker variant on the cellophane, right?
Yep.
It's the only TurboGrafx variant I even have knowledge of, Johnny.
Okay, so I will give you another one.
Great.
Jack Nicklaus Turbo Golf. The CD one is basically the same as the HuCard one, except they put a little sticker over the corner to hide the HuCard stuff. What is it? Great. I'm going to get this title wrong because it's like a weird title. Champions Forever Boxing has a variant where there's a red, like on the HuCard, there's red and there's black.
Whoa.
And it's either a red one or a black one. And I think it has something to do with, you needed to have the super system to get the sound right, or you got like messed up sound. You had to have, you either needed to be playing it on not the stock system, but one with the better stuff added on, like the Turbo CD with the sound card, or Turbo Duo. I think that's what it was, and I think they made the change when they had to mention that on it. They put a little sticker on the front of the box. But yeah, there was that. It also came with a poster. Here's some more collectory stuff. Impossible is like a really cool thing, and I wish I would have bought this when I had the chance. But Impossible has like a sticker pack that comes with it that you can get. There's also some Canadian variants you can stumble across of games. That was something I learned today, so go look for those if you're interested. But there's not like a ton of like, oh man, this is a sweet variant or big box for a Turbo game you should go and get. It's more like, oh yeah, Bonk is like the weird one. They're like, yeah, they made a CD version of it too, and same with Jack Nicklaus. But who cares about Jack Nicklaus Golf?
That's a celebrity cover, Johnny. Those are collectible now.
Yeah,
sorry to tell you.
First appearance of Jack Nicklaus in 16-bit.
It's really an 8-bit console.
No, yeah. Thanks. Stefan, tell me a game that has because not many games come with cool stuff, but Stefan's got one that comes with some cool inserts. What is it?
Well, before that, I was actually looking, honestly, I was sitting here trolling Cyphix Instagram for interesting things.
Oh yeah, that would have been a smart thing for us to do before.
So he's got it, and it looks like a legitimate card, legitimate Hue card, but it's for Final Soldier, and it's like a special version. It looks like
there's a lot of reproduction Hue card stuff. You could join the Facebook group Turbografx Reproductions, which I joined just to keep on top of what fake stuff is coming out. Huh. That was a while ago though. Yeah. Like there's like reproduction magical chases that have all white hue cards. Those are reproductions. It's supposed to be a white card with like that black bit at the end. Yep, they love making their ROM hacks just like NES people love making ROM hack cartridges.
Huh.
Okay.
Interesting. So I know that Impossible comes with some stickers.
Yeah. What's the best one? The best feelies?
That one's the one I was talking about earlier was a CD game. I don't know if it
really is it? I thought.
Yeah. Oh, you have to cut this whole section out.
Nope, I'm sorry, Stefan. Totally messed you up. I forgot Sherlock Holmes is a CD game.
It is indeed.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later, but it comes with cool newspapers.
It does. Same as the. Because it was essentially a point and click adventure, but it was like the early like CD-ROM full motion video kind of game, and so like it comes with the same feelings that it came like the PC version came with. So yeah.
So I mean, like, also, what a cool, like, if you were gonna make a point and click game, like making it about Sherlock Holmes, how awesome! What a good idea that was. I wish they would have done better and made more of those games.
Yeah.
Anyways, totally off topic. Anyways, special editions were not a thing. I'll just tell you guys, not really. They had the holiday bundles and they had like the free promotion bundles, but there wasn't like special edition, like green, neon green, jungle green, extreme atomic purple, aren't you glad
they were having enough
orange.
Trouble selling the base model.
Yeah. Anyways, Tyler, you kind of touched on it. Is there an aftermarket or homebrew scene for this?
I mean, there's people making reproductions, but they're all just ROM hacks. Any homebrew that comes out on Turbografx is going to be on CD, both because Super CD is more powerful and because you can produce a game for 10 cents instead of however much it costs to produce a hue card. And then in terms of aftermarket stuff, there's people really want Analog to make a system. They have not made a system yet, but man, it sure seems like Analog at some point would make a PC Engine Duo FPGA.
No, you're not gonna need to worry about it because that vaporware system that I always forget the name of finally announced that the pre-orders are coming out.
Retroblox is what it used to be called.
Yeah.
And now it is called the Polymega. Hey, I figured
Polymega. Hey,
yeah.
There it is. It's such a terrible name. I always forget.
And you can, instead of having a nice all-in-one console, you can like take the face off your console and replace it with the face of another console, which I guess makes sense. But oh my god, so the Polymega would make sense if the core of the system was an FPGA, because the whole thing with Analog is they make you buy the same FPGA every time they put out a system, when like the guts of the system, as far as I know, is the same, and what's changing is the ports for the cartridge and the controller slot, which would be perfect for the Polymega, except it's just, in the end, it's just software emulation. So, I mean, apparently it's good software emulation. Apparently they got like Saturn software emulation and all that, but again, I think it's just Medfinet or whatever.
But remember, it was supposed to be FPGA when it came out, and they walked that back.
Cagey bullshit. They were like, it's not emulation, it's hybrid emulation, which means nothing.
Emulation, which means emulation. Which means emulation. I'm still not going to believe that this thing is coming out until it's out. Stefan, you have it pre-ordered, right?
I do, but I was also a late pre-order, so who the fuck knows?
Oh, man, I want to play it. Like, please, like I keep preaching accessibility to games. I would like to like randomly put in some Sega CD games and play them, like without just having to just download and do like the dumb shit. Like play in my living room. Like let me play some Saturn games. Please let me do this. Nope. Let's make it impossible. All the mini systems don't play these things. Nintendo and Sega aren't putting these on, virtual consoles for people to play. Just do with this. Let me play these games. All these weird CD games are just like locked in a vault, and you can't it's so difficult to play them.
Johnny,
especially
you literally own all these consoles.
I know.
I know you're not gonna play them on a thing, and you don't own a CRT.
I mean, no. I have my PVM, which, as you have pointed out, is technically a CRT.
It is.
So yes, and I have it set up where I can play some of these, but I don't like playing in my office. I like to play downstairs on my TV. I don't want to play on a little PVM. I don't want to do it. I like to play on a couch. Like when I was a kid, I would sit on the couch or on the floor, but I don't want to do that in my office. It's just, this is not a space where I game either. I'll do it occasionally, but this is like a work area. This is where I'm getting stuff done. So
I hope it's good, Johnny. I hope, for your sake, I hope this thing is good, because like your options for these multi-systems right now are like a Retron 5, which everyone knows has like lots of compromises, or like just straight up getting like a Raspberry Pi or a computer and running emulators.
And it's like I would like to put my actual discs in. I don't have a problem playing with them, but anyways.
How much is it going to suck if it's just like an emulation system with a bunch of problems and it's basically just another Retron 5 that you've spent $700 on?
I mean, it would be a Retron 5 that plays discs at least.
Great.
Be a step up.
We did it.
Anyways, yeah. Woo. What else we got here? Is there Stefan, you tell me about these. What are the dumbass magazines for this system? Every console had its magazines. Which ones did this one get?
I know I helped you with this list. Where did we write them? Sorry, I don't see them.
Accessories, magazines, and other crap.
Oh, there we go. So there was a couple. The three notable that we have here is the Turbo Play that released in the first issue was June 1990. The second publication here is Turbo Force, and that was June 92, and then Duo World in July 93. They are pretty. Most of these are pretty scarce, right? As far as like trying to find copies.
Yeah, and
I was surprised at how many episodes. Duo World is like 3 issues, but I was surprised how many issues of Turbo Play are for sale, because I would have thought it was very scarce. And there's a bunch of copies for sale, but it's just like Nintendo Power. You can go and get a bunch of Nintendo Powers, and like every issue of this year, spending like $50 on.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, thank you. So yeah, there you go.
Well, you should go get the art from all the Turbo Plays, and then you can be the art of TP.
Haven't run into any Turbo magazine art yet. Occasionally EGM. That's been I passed on some EGM covers a little while back, but not Turbografx stuff yet.
Did I told Tyler this thing I'm creating, and but I'm starting to compete with you. So you didn't know this, but I'm coming into the market. Yeah. So I created a new Instagram handle and everything. It's the art of HP, and I'm just it's all Harry Potter art.
Oh, okay. Not Hewlett Packard.
I told Tyler it was Hewlett Packard. I said I'm collecting printer art. That's all the hottest printer art that they've ever made. But no, I told them, I'm like, I'm going to make the art of HP, and then I'm going to make it look like we're sister branded sites, like that it's a team. Then we're going to become a conglomerate. Yeah, but also Harry Potter art is. I'm not going to do that.
There are a couple art of accounts. Great, awesome.
Well, welcome to the community. The art of HP is like pretty close to art of NP. Like, so I'm just making jokes. This was for me, not for anyone else.
I'll just cut it all out, Johnny. Don't worry about it.
Thanks,
Stefan. I've got a question. I believe at some point you told me or us or someone, maybe it was a convention, that the letters in Nintendo Power were all actual letters and they weren't just like made up. Am I remembering this correctly?
Letters like from
letters
children?
To the editor.
Yeah. Those are all real.
Okay, so me and Johnny were reading an issue of Duo World before we started recording.
Oh, it's so made up.
These letters were like 1,000% just made up. They're like, wow, Duo World, thank you so much for keeping us completely informed on all the latest upcoming releases for the best system in the world, the Turbo Duo. You're the only ones who really give it the respect it deserves. 100% just all made up. The only letter that we read that I believed was I don't even know if I believed someone. There was a letter that was like, guys, Nintendo is totally ripping off the Duo, the only original console, because there's a bonk game on the Game Boy now. How could they rip off the Duo it's the same character. I can't believe it. Someone should sue.
So I have the letter up here, Tyler, so I'll give it a read.
Yes,
Dear
please.
Duo World, They also, the thing they do in these letters is they put like a big title above the letter to let you know what this letter's about, to create intrigue, I guess. So this one is titled Angry Reader. It's big red letters that take up almost as much space as the letter itself does. And like, it's real stupid. Anyways, Dear Duo World, Nintendo has been ripping you off. It's true. Your most popular game series, Bonk, has been ripped off. He's now a Game Boy game, and Bomberman is on Super NES. What is going on? Yeah. This just I
enjoy that they printed that.
It is.
But it's, yeah.
Wow, you don't even, well, I mean, like, what are they going to do? Like, you already own a Turbo Duo. You're kind of stuck if you're reading this magazine. But if I didn't own one, I'd be like, oh, I could just play Bonk and Bomberman on Nintendo systems? Awesome!
I'm out. See you, Turbo. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you wrote a letter to Turbo Duo, which only got 3 issues, you had to be a true believer, because the magazine probably failed before they got to most of the letters. Like, how did they have letters in the first issue? I don't know. Anyways, it's probably because the magazine continued on from the last one and they just changed the name. Anyways, here's I'm going to give you guys one last letter, like the one that's like the fakiest fake one. Duo World. I just received first issue of Duo World, and it is great. The July-August issue is packed with lots of information I can use to improve my gameplay, as well as secrets, tips to conquer the most difficult games. Speaking of tips, I have a great one, Lords of Thunder. All you need to do is enter configuration screen and set level to hard music 01. And I'm emphasizing those because all the key commands are bolded and capitalized. So it's just like, basically it's a technical writer written by someone who definitely works there. I don't need to go into the rest of it, but yeah, super fakey. Yeah. So this is fake ass letters.
Lords of Thunder is great though. It's a good game.
Fake, yeah, fine. That's a fake ass bullshit. Anyways, that was magazines. If you want to go buy a Duo World, go help yourself. It's easy set to finish. There's only 3. So, yeah. Is there other stuff we should be looking for? Tyler, is there an uncommon game that isn't expensive yet that you would recommend?
Well, besides everything, honestly, in like this market, if you really cared about TurboGrafx, it hasn't gone up in price nearly as much as everything else. So FOMO panic buy everything, especially the Hero Toma that's on eBay right now. But the one thing that I have heard of, an uncommon thing that is not maybe the most expensive thing in the world, I've seen multiple people say the King of Casino box, for whatever reason, is hard to find, considering King of Casino is a worthless game that nobody wants. So go get your King of Casino box, Johnny.
Okay. Now let's talk about things to look out for. Repros, things like, PAL Stadium events that you could mix up, like things like that. And there's a pretty obvious one. Stefan, you kind of already talked about this, but I'll just go over it a little bit. Japanese versus US copies of expensive games. Because the art a lot of times looks exactly the same. They didn't like a lot of Nintendo games. You get like wildly different art from the Japanese one to the American one. These all look the same, and they're in jewel cases, so it can be kind of hard to distinguish. Magical Chase, like you can tell if you know, but you could be easily fooled. Same with Legend of Hirotoma. It looks exactly like the same cover. The other thing to look out for is like repro hue cards. They don't do a good job. Lots of them are like 3D printed and not the same color. Pretty easy to tell in person, but yeah, there's repros of those. So just familiarize yourself. It's not that hard to spot those. It's not like Super Nintendo or anything where it's getting much harder. And you guys can now tell. Well, you got something else?
Yeah, I would also say watch. I don't know how you would watch out for this before you buy it, but like you said, there are reproduction stickers for the ends of cases. And so those stickers, the reason that people reproduce them is because for whatever reason, on the back of the case, the stickers overlap like giant holes. So kids with their stupid fingers, they would poke out the holes like through the case, and like the stickers get ripped. What a horrible case design. I hate it.
It's so stupid.
So, I mean, obviously make sure you're seeing the back of your case because you need the whole case. You can't replace any component of this. Another thing is the the little arm that holds the Hue card on, because you can't replace the case because it's all the sticker is tied to the case. Make sure.
Well, and I don't think all the cases have those either.
Oh yeah. Oh, am I thinking of PC Engine, or is that just certain games?
I think most of them have them, but I can't confirm.
No, because there's some that are they have like a piece of foam that presses it against the case.
Oh.
What a stupid case!
Like,
why do they make their own cases? What a needless
Do they
expense.
all have
the sleeve?
The sleeve, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they all have. There's like a little plastic sleeve that goes all over them, and there are reproductions of that sleeve as well. I don't know how you would even distinguish whether they're real or not. Again, like that's like having a reproduction desk case for a Nintendo game. Also, like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, or like the repro foam blocks for the NES boxes.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, when you have all like 94 games, you just get all your real ones, and then you buy a reproduction one. You're like, all right, which ones of these are reproductions?
Yeah. So
yeah, I was gonna say, and Tyler already kind of touched on it, but just familiarize yourself with those last 20 games, and just understand that, like, for instance, there's no jewel cases. Like, so, like, just know that if someone's trying to like sell you a CIC copy of Legend of Hero Tanma, that doesn't actually exist, right? So, like, you shouldn't be paying premiums for that.
All right. Yeah, so this is pretty much, we're going to cap this episode out with outlook for the system. Guys, what's the outlook? How do we play this? When we kind of touched on this, but, is there an eShop? Is there a mini for this? Tell us about the outlook for the system, playing the games, and like what's coming for it. Tyler or Stefan, start us off.
Yeah, there is a mini console for it. Again, kind of floated a little bit under the radar. It came out with a wide berth from the other mini consoles, but it is out there. I have one, but I haven't played it. I have heard middling reviews about the emulation.
There's a Japanese one too, right? Which has different games.
Yeah. This is also one of those systems that it's old enough that you can emulate it easily if you want, or get your Mister going with your turbo core. The other thing that I've sort of noted, in Rondo of Blood is one of them, but limited run is often now reproducing games that already had physical versions of them, including the Turbo library. So there's always opportunity that they will make more Turbo games as well. Anybody else want to talk about anything else that I'm missing? What did you play?
Tyler's got some heat on Rondo of Blood. How do you feel about Rondo?
It's a CD game. It doesn't count. But Limited Run Games is coming out with Rondo of Blood, which will make more people buy Turbografx when that comes out. Well, honestly, no one's going to play that. Whatever. But and then also when Polymega comes out, when Analog releases their PC Engine, whenever that is, it will probably cause more interest in Turbografx, which is already a market with not enough supply for anyone to have anything who's only like casually interested in. More likely, that's going to affect the PC Engine market for like super common games like Bomberman 93 that everyone wants. But when those systems come out, there will be more demand for physical Turbo games. So I would say get the stuff you want now.
Oh, there's a flash cart, by the way. I should mention that.
Yeah, you can buy an EverDrive.
Yeah,
too.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
so one other interesting like little bit just before we leave our discussion on Turbo is that Sega actually supported this system for a while. So like but not in America, just on PC Engine, but you can find some Genesis games like Altered Beast on the PC Engine, and you don't need to. Like, you can mod your system. That's the other thing I want to talk about, how easy it is to mod your system to play PC Engine games. I mean, you have to have some technical know-how, but Tyler told me it's 2 pins that you have to flip, but you don't have to worry about, like, the Hertz issue that you do, like, from Nintendo, Nintendo to, like, PAL games or anything. It's real easy, or not, I won't say real easy, but easy enough hack you can do to your system. And then the PC Engine library is huge, and a lot of it, because it's 8/16-bit stuff, doesn't require a bunch of reading. So, if you want to expand past these 94 games, you can do it, and there's some good ones you can do it with. Anyways, that's it. That's all I got. Anybody else? Any last thoughts, gents? No? Cool.
No.
Nope.
Wow, that silence was resounding. Jesus. Tyler was like, fuck out of here. Let's get to the collector's questions.
No, I just, there's some okay games on Turbografx, Johnny, and then a lot of interesting ones are on Turbografx-CD, which I feel like in this episode I'm not allowed to talk about.
You're not allowed to talk about it because we're going to talk about it itself.
East.
Zone
East 1 and 2, guys. It's really good.
Is it East or is it Yeez?
East.
Yeez?
East. Is there there's probably an American commercial for it, right?
Probably. I don't know.
I'm sure because in Japanese it's probably Issa, so
I'm trolling. I am the 100% the wrong guy to ask on the correct way to say things. All right. Collector's question. What do we got for a collector's question this week, Tyler?
Well, Johnny, we got a great one. And it's coming right up. Here it is. Are you ready?
Well, you are the editor, and you can just magically cut that spot where you were waiting to pull the question up.
No,
that's what I heard you typing, so I thought that's what you were doing. I thought you were readier.
Would you guys ever host a meetup at PRGE? Yes. Is anyone going to some expo? Probably.
Are
these the questions? Is this how you're doing it?
Was that the two?
Let's go.
All right, we're done.
All right, moving on.
That
Thanks,
was so
Tyler.
bad. Okay, that
was Tyler.
Permission.
Shark.
Permission to cut that.
No, that's got to stay in. Tyler, go.
Funny.
Okay, all right. I've got a real question here, Johnny. And our viewers don't know our listeners don't know what happened because I cut all that. Zeno asks, I was born in 1980. Can you remind me what I'm nostalgic for and if that thing might be fun to collect? Guys, I'm a decade away from you guys, so tell Zeno what is fun to collect from the 80s.
VHS? Sealed VHS?
No, okay, so I didn't give you the full context. They were thanking us for saying VHS collecting was bullshit. Sealed VHS collecting is bullshit. You can still collect VHS. So what else besides VHS would be fun to collect, Johnny?
Tapes. Cassette tapes.
Cassette tapes.
No, God, please don't. Don't do that. Here's the thing that I'm looking at. There's if you were a child of the 80s and born in 1980, there's a lot of good stuff that you can go get that will probably, if you are nostalgia heavy, go buy a couple, you don't need to go crazy and collect everything, but go buy whatever your favorite action figure was, but buy it sealed. One cool thing or whatever your favorite comic was and go get a nice copy of it and, or even a graded copy, just because you don't need to read it. It's just a nostalgia piece. So there's lots of already established hobbies you can just dip into to get your nostalgia fix from it, or moments from your childhood that you can recapture and that aren't really that expensive. For me, I want to go buy, and I just haven't done it yet, but there was this Batman figure from Batman 1989 where his belt pulled out, and I loved the movie so much, and I had such a good time going to see it with my cousin, and my aunt took me. We went to Baskin Robbins and Taco Bell. I got the Taco Bell cup, and then the next day after, because we saw it at night at the Cinedome up in Sacramento, and then the next day we went to Target and Mervyn's because they were kind of combined stores back in the day. There was a tunnel that linked them. And my aunt took us to buy figures, and I got this Batman with the belt, and I was like, this is the coolest figure ever. I can attach his belt to stuff, and he flies up just like in the movie. This is awesome. So you can do stuff like that. So I'm gonna go buy that figure. I already bought my Jedi Luke Skywalker. There's just a couple of little ones I just want to buy and have and be yeah, these are basically the tokens of my childhood, without being an insane person who bought 10,000 games and was surrounded and drowning in them all the time. You can just pick and choose a couple nostalgia moments.
You just need one more thing now that you have your 10,000 video games.
Yep.
I just need this figure. And also this place. Oh, and Castle Grayskull. That would be cool to have, right? Oh, and this sealed VHS.
Do you know how much willpower it has taken me not to buy a Castle Grayskull?
You will end up with a Castle Grayskull by the end of next year, I will say.
No, no. If I was going to end up with one, there was a time when all the new He-Man stuff was coming out. Not the 2000X line, but when the Four Horsemen had moved on and they were just doing Like, I think Mattel was doing direct sales for figures and they had waves. If I was going to get GOT, I would have been GOT then. And I fought, and I even have like a couple of the dumb figures. Like, I've got the Laughing Prince Adam figure. Well, I think that's like Section 7 or something else. But I have like the dentist figure. Like, so I have like a couple. But like, I think just those ones.
All right. So here's what's going to happen, Johnny.
I would have been GOT.
Stefan
now I'm
bought
not.
that Optimus Prime that like stands up and dances and whatever.
I sure did. I'm so excited.
Yeah, he's gonna get that. You're gonna be like, wow,
see,
that's
I
really
would-
cool.
see-
That's a really cool part of his childhood. I want something from my childhood that's really
I
expensive
have
and
it.
fancy.
I have a Jedi Luke still on card and very nice, unpunched. It's like I should go send it away to be graded. It's beautiful, and I've got like 5 other Star Wars figures, and they're really nice. The only one I still want is a Darth Vader. Yeah, I have those. Like, the Star Wars ones are the best, but I can't buy too many action figures. I'm going to buy that Batman because it represents a different time, but also Masters of the Universe figures are big, and I would want the original one, and I would want Castle Grayskull because I have so much nostalgia for stupid Castle Grayskull and Battle Cat and Panther. Just not Panther.
I have no idea what any of
Wow.
it is. I
Well, it's
literally
the
only know
Cat
of it because it's
Skeletor rides,
collectible.
but not really. Yeah,
think
it's
I
like
saw
a
it.
purple panther. It was like a big gym figure that they just put felt on. It's exactly like the same as Battle Cat too. They just different armor and changed the paint scheme. Like I said, but it was a big gym, just regular tiger that had nothing to do with the show. They were just like, yeah, well, this could be a thing. Oh yeah, the guys are big enough to ride it. Sure. Now this is a thing. Now, yeah, we'll call it Battle Cat. Just like wasn't having to do with anything. It was a hodgepodge.
Stefan, do you have any follow-up answers to this?
Yeah, for me, I think like the 80s, like as far as like collecting stuff, it really focuses around action figures, right? So I think there's like just so many collectible action figures, but like stuff that I was trying to think of, like, yes, there's like the Transformers and Thundercats and He-Man and G.I. Joe, like some of the staples that obviously are like super collectible and easy to collect because they're fucking everywhere. But then I was trying to think of like some like lesser, like sort of off the beaten path stuff that I loved, like Dino Riders, like Battle Beasts, like Rock Lords. Rock Lords are fucking amazing. They're Transformers, but they're rocks. Who doesn't want rock Transformers?
So stupid. What was it? It transformed from a rock. Cool.
Whoa, it's my
They're
house
so
key
good.
inside.
They're so good. They did a fucking movie that was a crossover with fucking GoBots.
Yeah,
I-
GoBots.
GoBots, you know how
God.
cool those are.
Yes. Thank you.
Though the villain from GoBots is just the best name, Psykill. Like, come
Yes. Yes. Or the other thing I was thinking about is like the fucking McDonald's toys in the 80s
No,
were like
garbage.
the best.
on. They were
no, but
pretty good.
huh?
There was some pretty interesting ones.
Yeah, like the Transformers ones were awesome. I love those things. So
You could go buy Mario toys
yeah, or
or
like,
Sonic.
Muscle Men is another one that
Muscles.
that come to mind as well. You know, so like I just think there's so many like interesting
Go buy Monster in My Pockets.
food fighters, or yeah, just so many interesting
the
like
80s
little
was full of
weird
toys.
yes,
Go buy them.
yeah. So that's my answer. Action
Castle
figures. Go
Grayskull
for it.
posted on Instagram, tag Johnny, make him jealous.
Oh God! Don't at me with the new one. I don't care, or the 2 newest ones, like the 2000X one. But if you have just like the original Castle Grayskull or Snake Mountain in box, don't show me your loose
Oh,
one.
yeah, no, inbox
Yeah.
and have like a manifest of the parts and show that it's 100% complete.
Just man, if you have it in box, if you have a sealed in box one, then show me. It's so big though. Like, where would you keep it? It's gigantic.
You're getting
And
like
then there's, like,
cabinets, these ridiculously huge cabinets to show off your ridiculously huge statues.
Not statues. They're action figures. They're hot toys.
What? Action figures, you don't play with them. They're like expensive collectibles.
It's not a diary; it's a journal.
Stefan's gonna play with his Optimus Prime.
I pose them and I can repose them, into scenes. And you say, well, that's not playing with them.
Action.
It is too. That's exactly how I played with my toys as a child. Do you know what I did? I set up all of my figures in a scene. I did not smash them together. I just set up a little scene. I was like, yep, that's what I wanted to capture. These are great toys. I was a very boring child in that respect. But like what I wanted to do was just recreate scenes. So I was always like, yeah, I need like, I'd borrow my friend's stormtroopers. I'm like, I'm going to need all of your stormtroopers today because I need to. The Emperor is landing on the Death Star and Vader's going to walk him out of Shuttle Tidarium. And I need a fleet. I need a couple of your officers if you got officers. And it's supposed to be on both sides, but I'm only going to do one side. So if you were looking at it from the top, over the top on the other side, so you wouldn't see those people, it's going to be okay. It's not exactly what I want, but I'm a poor child, so we only got like 10 figures. But this is what I'm going for. So yeah, bring all your figures over. I would tell that to like my best friend, and they want to like dig holes and like put their figures in holes and stuff. I was like, ooh, I really just want to set up a scene. That's all I want to do. I want to pose them and set up a scene.
I could not adequately explain to my parents why I needed like 50 foot soldiers. I always wanted a shitload of foot soldiers, and I never got them, and that is a great regret of my life.
Yeah, because there's never one foot soldier there. If you wanted to put a scene, like if they're gonna fight the turtles, there are 4 turtles. They're not sending one stupid foot soldier. They're gonna send 40 of them because
right.
Yeah, foot soldiers are garbage and Ninja Turtles are Ninja Turtles. So they need to, if they're going to have any shot, they're going to have to beat them it's got to be a numbers game. It's not going to be a one-on-one fight. That's what Shredder's for.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm with you. I understand. The sad thing is I do understand. So when my son is like, Dad, I need 20 of these, I'm going to be like, yeah, you kind of do. Yeah, you kind of do. And that's, I don't think that's healthy. But yeah,
I find myself doing that with Piper and her, like she'll get like she's really into Paw Patrol, and so like when they have like new Paw Patrol stuff, I notice it, and I'm like I talk her into me buying her Paw Patrol stuff that she doesn't have.
Like, well, your sets. You don't have all of them now, so you can't do that scene. Oh, you're doing that scene, but you're missing them.
She does not care if she has every pup or not in a series, and it just drives me crazy. It's like, no, you have to get this.
I feel
it's
it,
bad.
But also that's a sickness. All right. Anyways, I think we've answered that question.
All Caps asks, what are some 80s, 90s TV shows or movies you can't believe never got the video game treatment?
Wonder Woman.
What the? That's like a 60s property. It's like a 40s property. Why is there no Wonder Woman video game, guys? What is going on?
Still very confused. Okay, yeah, but Tyler, what about you? What do you have from like the 80s or 90s that didn't get the video game treatment that you thought was like a shoo-in?
There must be a Wonder Woman game in development. There's a True Lies video game in Wonder Woman. All right, anyway, Baywatch. Baywatch has a fucking pinball machine, and there was never a Baywatch video game.
Are you sure that wasn't like even one of the shitty? Maybe there wasn't.
There's probably like a mobile match 3 game or something now because everything's nostalgia 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if it was a game now, it would probably be. It wouldn't be like an action game. Like it would have been like a side scroller back then, and maybe that wasn't the best fit. It would probably be more like exploration and talking to people. But yeah, there should have been a Baywatch game just because it was so popular, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Stefan, you got any?
I mean, Rock Lords.
Thanks.
Johnny, you got any?
Yeah, I do.
Actually, I was going to say Thundercats, but then apparently there was on the Atari ST, there was a Thundercats game. Who fucking knew?
I think there's one on the GBA. Am I crazy?
Well, so I was taking the question as like an 80s property that did not get a video game, like an 80s, 90s
can't get one period, except for mobile games, because everyone knows mobile games don't count.
Okay, so I'll say like it got a computer game, but it didn't get like a console game. Hitchhiker's Guide, like that's surprising to me. Like you would have thought like maybe Silverhawks or Mask. Like everyone loved Mask. Was like,
is there not a Mask game?
I don't think so. Maybe there.
What?
But
there's definitely a Mask game. It's on SNES.
Really?
Yeah. Is it on
Mask?
Genesis too?
No, not The Mask.
Not The Mask. Guys, I grew up in the 90s. You guys are talking about just Mask.
Yes. But not Mask with Eric Stoltz and Cher.
Why is that not a video game?
That would have been an excellent game.
That would have been a weird game.
Yeah. You have to convince Cher to love you.
Aww.
And then die at the end. If you don't die at the end, you lose.
Too soon.
We got Tyler on that one. That's excellent. I think Robotech had games in Japan. Like Voltron didn't really
Robotech.
get a
There's
game,
a
right?
Robotech game on Xbox.
Yeah, but I mean that's like kind of later. I'm just surprised, like in the Nintendo
That's
era.
what I was. That's what I was saying too. Like 80s and 90s properties that didn't get games at the time.
In that time, like
Yeah.
Masters of the Universe didn't get like a Nintendo game, which was weird. They got like an Atari game and later a GBA game.
Dino Riders, right? That would have been a good one.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3.
Did Voltron not get a game at all?
Ooh, that's weird.
Is there not a Voltron game?
Voltron video game. I know there was a. There's one on the. Well, he's in Super Robot Wars on the Switch technically.
No.
Yeah, there's a Voltron game in 2011, Gianni. But that's all I see.
But for what system?
PS3 and Xbox 360. It's a twin stick shooter of all things.
Weird.
Was there like a Voltron revival 10 years ago?
There was.
Yes?
Not like 10 years ago, like 6 years ago, I thought. Or maybe it is 10 years now.
This is 2011, so.
Yeah, 2011. There you go. Yeah, it was 2011.
All right, we're gonna spend too long just listing off shows that don't have video games. I'm gonna call it. That's our collector's questions. Ask our questions in the Collector's Quest Discord. If you're a patron, you can go to the Ask the Podcast channel and put your question in there. Johnny, I'm going to move us on to the second half of the show. Well,
I'm not gonna let you, because if you want to be a member of our Patreon and join our Discord where you can find this, you can join at patreon.com/collectorsquest for as little as $2 or no more than $6, and you can get extra content. And again, every time we get a new member, I'm just like, oh, what an excellent person you just joined. I'll call out Milwaukee Retro Gamer. It's like, oh, he's got such a good account and he's got like so many cool games and he's like kind of on the same path as me and he's helped me out before. I was like, man, now he's in our Discord, just another great resource. So, I love our Discord and all the people in there. And I thank all the people who have been generous enough to support us. And again, if you can't, don't feel bad about that at all. You're getting most of the great content. We do have some bonus stuff though, for subscribers at the $4 or $6 tier. Anyways, now move us on.
I'm just happy that we have another Atari guy in the Discord. But also, every time you say something about the Patreon that's actually in the show, I make sure to intentionally not mention it at the beginning of the show because I hate getting the double dip. Where are we going? We're going to What Are You Buying, What Are You Playing, the second half of the show that we're starting here at 4:37 a.m. in the morning. Johnny, what are you buying? What are you playing?
Not much. I'm not playing anything right now. Sadly, it was a no play weekend. It made me sad, but I did buy some stuff. Tyler, are you proud of me? Remember, I told you I bought a GBA game. That was exciting. Whew, and it wasn't. I want to just be clear. I bought a GBA game, and it was not. It wasn't Harry Potter or anything, or it was a GBC game. I'm sorry. I bought Heroes of Might and Magic 2. So that was cool.
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah.
Very
so that
exciting.
I bought that Haunted Casino. And I bought that Masters of the Universe from the PlayStation 2 version. That is a PAL exclusive, which you've seen in my Instagram feed. I bought some other games that haven't arrived. Oh, I bought, again, another Halloween one, Vampire Mansion. And I bought Alien Infestation and Coraline for the DS. Those are both DS games. Coraline is also on the Wii. But yeah, Alien Infestation, if you don't know, on the DS is a little bit pricey. Not too hard to find. There's like enough copies, not as many as you'd think, but pretty good game. People like it. Coraline is a game that has been going up steadily. I don't know if it's just hard to find on the DS, but it's also a little expensive on the Wii, also a little expensive on the PS2. It's just a game that's been climbing, and it's Neil Gaiman, and and it was a fantastic movie, and my wife loves it. So it also scratches that Halloween itch. I can't believe I didn't buy it sooner. I mean, I bought the other two, and I was just slacking on the DS one. So that's what I bought.
Speaking of, so I remember, hey Johnny, we can give a hot plug to your appearance on the video game collecting podcast, the Dan collectors. One, guys. The icon for the show says The Hunt, but he just calls it the Video Game Collecting Podcast.
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to do it on the bumper, so I'll just shout out his podcast and make sure people go find the Video Game Collecting Podcast with Dan. He does great interviews with people. He just started back up. He was on a hiatus, and he was nice enough to have me on.
A hiatus? He was doing more than one episode a week. He was just let's
do
an
interview shows
breaking them out
multiple times a week. Jesus,
I'd burn out that fast too.
Yeah, but I remembered you brought up. I don't know, you might have been talking about how you were collecting basically Halloween games, and you brought up oh yeah, I got this game Haunted Casino for the Saturn, and you didn't even mention that it's like a porno game, and I was very disappointed.
I did say it was a porno game.
I do not remember you saying. I was listening to the show, Gianni. Don't remember you bringing up that it was a
I thought I did. Maybe that could have been edited. I don't think it was, but I thought I mentioned. Yeah. So it looks like a really innocuous card game, and then all of a sudden, just boobs. You're just like, what? What is happening? So the manual is really funny because it's supposed to entice you. The front of the box would not tell you any of it. The gameplay on the back of the case doesn't show you anything, right? And you open it up, and the first thing is some weird lecherous looking demon bat creature, and you're just like, oh, gross. This thing, I don't like the look of you at all. And you flip a few pages, and it's like, girl who is also part unicorn and also very naked. And then you're like, girl who is a mermaid and also naked. You're just like, oh wow, they in the manual, they didn't even make me have to play rock paper scissors for this. They just were like, yeah, it's fine. I'll show you now. So yeah,
guys, this game is very affordable.
It is.
CQ spec pick Haunted Casino on Japanese Sega Saturn.
You can get it for $20 to $30.
I don't have it. I should pick it up now that we've hyped it, Gianni.
Yeah. Get that hype. Now the game's got that smoke, as the kids say. You're going to want to pick it up.
I'm lying. I have 12 copies, and I'm about to sell them all as soon as this goes live. Anything else you got?
No, that was it. If you want to know all the girls who are naked in the manual, they are on the front of the cover, but clothed.
Oh, you get all of them in the manual. That's good to know.
Yeah, there's 8 pages of just suddenly nude girls. I'm like, is this even relevant? I don't know. They're like, here you go. My wife
I want to make sure you don't return it. They're like, here. If you lose in the casino, you still got the manual to fall back on.
Yeah. Thankfully, all of the pages were fine on that manual. Clean manual, good shape. So I don't think that game was played. But Tyler, because Tyler's the one who showed me this game. I was like, you should buy this for your Halloween pick. And I was like, I think porn games are funny. So I was like, yeah, this is in my wheelhouse. This is definitely completely on brand for me. I should pick this up. So I bought it. And I was not expecting the manual to be like that, because normally those manuals are just pretty much text, the bare minimum, because they're just trying to get you to play 10 minutes to see the worst digital boobs you've ever seen. But this game was
Are you suggesting porn games might be low effort and low quality?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's, I think, an unequivocal fact.
I mean, honestly, yeah. I think that's honestly a different thing in Japan, just because they don't have the stigma of the US, so...
Probably.
As I'm learning, I go through literally every computer game listing probably every other day on Yahoo, and it's just just porn games are a thing, and that was never a thing in America. There were computer porn games, but they were really shady backdoor things, not oh yeah, here's a retail porn game you would buy in a store.
Yeah, my Sorcerer's Apprentice, not really a porn game. It was
well, yeah,
a tier below Cinemax was our porn computer games.
Yes, the Leisure
Virtual
Suit
Valerie
of the world.
Shout out to Virtual Valerie.
Yeah, I had a friend asking me, he's like, so, did they just sell the porn games in shops there? Was that normal? I'm like, I have no idea how these were sold. I don't know. Were they on the shelf next to regular games? I had never heard. So I'm glad you provided some insight, because I was curious.
I did have a PC, strictly PC store near me. It was in Old Town Pasadena, actually, when I was growing up. So this would have been like 96. And they had the like adult PC games sectioned off like you would like a porn video section in a video store. Like, yeah, there was like a curtain and that kind of shit.
You messed up, Stefan. I bet all those games are super valuable now.
I know.
Stefan, what did you buy? What'd you buy? You probably bought something stupid and ridiculous.
Actually, so recently I've been buying things, prepping for the show that I'm doing in September, which is September 17th, the Megabit Expo in Simi Valley, where Johnny and I live. So if he doesn't show up, I'm going to be real mad.
Yeah, whoa, stalkers.
I know,
you can't tell our exact location. I mean, you could probably Google my name and find that out, but please don't.
But please don't. So anyway, so I've been prepping for that show. Like I just commissioned a 4-foot Art of Nintendo Power neon sign, which I'm pretty excited about. And I just bought or I just commissioned branding for my nonprofit. So I've been spending my money on businessy things like that. I finally got around to playing, guys, and with children, so with the intended audience, I played the Mario Kart Live for the first time today.
Oh, yeah?
That was, so I will say, playing the game is really interesting because like when you are down on the ground, right, your camera perspective is very low to the ground. The sense of speed is much better than like when you're watching someone else play it and you're just like watching the car go around. I was just watching the car go around the kitchen. I'm like, oh, this is not very fast or engaging or fun. But then I played it. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. So yeah, I will say, don't pass judgment. Like watching someone play that game. Actually play it, and it's actually fun. I've been dabbling a little bit actually, and this was a lot to do with the stuff that is happening around Activision Blizzard. So I have been playing significantly less World of Warcraft, and I've been playing Final Fantasy 14 again. So that's been fun.
What a difference. Moving from one addiction to the other.
Well, yep. I mean, the important part is that you're not supporting,
I guess you're correct. Yes.
Yes.
Good job.
So, right.
I can say I've canceled my RuneScape subscription again. There's an idle game.
Life.
What's up?
I said, you're taking back your life.
I'm taking back my life, at least for a few months. Like, probably 4 months I'll resubscribe. But there's an idle game. Did I bring this up already? It's called Melver Idle. It's literally exactly RuneScape, but there's no representation of a world. It's just text. And you just pick what you want to do. You're like, I'm mining. And then you close the app and you come back 6 hours later and it's like, you mined for 6 hours. Here's what you got. And it's like RuneScape without having to waste your life playing RuneScape. It's perfect.
It reminds me of Progress Quest.
Yeah.
It's Progress Quest, but you pick what to do in your progress. Yes. I love Progress Quest, by the way.
Yeah. You could also just not do either of those things.
Nope. We got to do something. You got to get those levels. You play RPGs, Johnny. You know what it is to get in those levels. I'm working on level 99 thieving right now.
All right. Okay. What'd you buy?
Well, actually, I've also been playing Shantae, Johnny.
Oh, yes. That's important.
Johnny, Shantae is... It's like a...
Shantae is okay.
It's like a worse pop full mail. Maybe it'll click with me. I don't know yet. Johnny, today, basically for half of my entire day, I went to the Limited Run Games flea market. I'm your man on the ground, breaking news.
Woo,
people fly in for this. So I went to this 2 years ago. There's a dead mall in my town, and they put up a pop-up shop. Super nice. It looked like a retail store. You'd basically walk around, and they had a ton of their old releases, and you just pick them up for like the prices that they would sell for regularly. And they put out like a bunch of weird exclusive stuff, and they kind of hid some of the good stuff. So there's like a scratch and dent area, but you like go there and be like, oh, there's Axiom Verge for the Wii U. That's a game that is 3 times more expensive than I could buy it for here. The way they did it this time was they set up a tent in a parking lot. They're actually opening a retail store in my town. And in the parking lot of the mall they're moving into, they set up a tent and moved a rental truck to the back of it. And they're just like, fill out this form of the games you want, and we're going to give you this stuff from the back of our truck. And I arrived a half hour before it started, which I recognize is very late for an event like this. And I was waiting 5 hours before I got to buy 4 games from them, which was awesome, I will say. But it was fun.
But they also just had vendors, right?
Yeah.
I'm following Doug Bogart on Twitter, and he just posted up a bunch of like finds. He like bought a bunch of fucking PS1 games and shit. So like that was interesting. I thought it was funny that he basically created a swap meet so he could like go and buy games off of people.
Really? Yeah. No. The vendor area. I mean, it wasn't like huge. It was probably, I don't know, 12 to 20 vendors, something like that. And I got a bunch of stuff. And the weirdest thing I noticed about this, every vendor just went to price charting and base prices on price charting. So some of the prices were like clearly done in advance, but a lot of them, they would just have something on the table. And when you asked for a price, they would look it up specifically on price charting, which it's awful. Price charting prices are terrible right now. They're super out of date. Like everything is super low. So I was getting stuff like for really good deals.
Hot deals.
I was getting some hot deals. And then highlight of the show, there was a guy, it was a pair of guys who used to work at Toys R Us, and they were selling their collection, and their collection was like 80% sealed games. I don't know if they were getting these from Toys R Us or what. And they had a bin of $10 games and a bin of $20 games, and then there were like bulk discounts. So I got like 30 modern AAA games, stuff that I would have passed over as garbage like 6 months ago. I would have been like, Devil May Cry 4 for the Xbox 360 sealed. What lunatic is going to pay $10 for that? But instead, because it's 2021, I basically bought out the entire table. And it's all the AAA games that aren't the absolute A-list titles. So if you think of, let's say, Dead Rising 2, it is all the games on that level. So I don't have Dead Rising, but I do have Dead Rising 2, Far Cry 3, Dead Island, 3 Assassin's Creed games, Sonic Generations, God of War 2, Infamous 2, Dark Souls is probably the best thing in the lot, like Soul Calibur 5, Ninja Gaiden 3, Resident Evil 4 and 6, Splinter Cell, what was it, Chaos Theory, Portal 2, just like good stuff, really cheap. I have no idea what this stuff is worth these days anymore, but that was probably the coolest stuff I got. And then I got 4 limited run games, including a Vita game for Johnny.
Woo!
Yeah.
Pricing as conventions come back, like the first wave of conventions coming back, I feel like pricing is going to be really interesting. Because all those vendors are going to have all this product that like has drastically changed in value since the last time they had them out. And like how they're going to manage that will be interesting.
I mean, I don't think that vendors are keeping on top, like definitely not as much as collectors are, of like crazy variants and like whatever's going on in heritage auctions.
Right?
Like the
they don't have fucking time to do that.
Right? So the people are just going to price charting for like a one-stop shop, and they're going to be mispricing variants or not realizing like, oh, one hasn't sold in 3 months and this price is horrifically out of date. So I think there's going to be a bunch of amazing deals in conventions from just, there's going to be more mispriced stuff than ever, whether it's just variants or they're not considering condition as much as they should. Right. And so like the first 10 minutes of the next convention is going to be just a bloodbath. Yeah.
Or there'll be vendors that swing for the fences in the other direction, right? Everything's going to be $1,000.
I mean, it could be, but all these vendors were out there, like they're there and they want to get rid of their stuff. They're just like, my goal here is to go home with nothing. There wasn't like the guy who's like, all my stuff is the super premium stuff. I want to, just show off that.
Yeah,
I've got
that'll probably
Samsung.
be like Portland. I expect there to be like Wata vendors. You know what I mean? Like, or I don't. It'll be interesting.
Oh yeah. Ooh, is it gonna be Wata vendors like Josh Byerly was at the last Portland? But there's probably gonna be a bunch of them next time.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Ooh, what a weird thing it's gonna be. We're gonna have
this first year. This first year is gonna be super interesting in
it
the
is.
Convention circuit.
The first year. Well, we've got like Midwest Gaming Classic. There's no Portland. I don't know if I'm going to Midwest Gaming Classic. And by I don't know, I mean I'm not going because when is it? Coronavirus is like already picking back up. All right.
Yeah, it's November. Yeah, I'm still thinking about it, but it doesn't look like it's happening. I don't know. Like, I'm not worried about me. I'm vaccinated and everything, but my son isn't, so I can't like really fly out there because I would have to fly the family out there and just be like, let's put my son on the plane and then even if it's fine, like even if people are like, oh well, he's probably gonna find, yeah, but like I'm on vacation now. Suddenly I got a sick baby that like 3 days into vacation. I don't want that either. That sucks. If you ever dealt with a sick baby, it's awful. No, thank you.
So yeah, excited for the convention stuff to open back up. And I spent obviously way too much money on all this garbage I don't need. Well,
How much did you spend?
Probably like $1,000 across everything because I just realized I also got like Complete in Box Legends of the Mystical Ninja, which I feel like an idiot because Complete in Box Legend of the Mystical Ninja is clearly the coolest thing I got, but in 2021 I feel like, oh man, guys, I got a sealed Saints Row that the guy threw in for free. That's good, right? It's the first in a series. I don't know. I feel like I had to mention the sealed modern games before I mentioned the cool Super Nintendo games. And I also got Mario is Missing Nintendo. And Ken Griffey Jr., which was missing the card, which is great because I've already got the card, which is why I wanted the game.
Yeah, I've got the card, so I wanted the game to put it in.
I've got this stupid video game card sitting on like a stack of Magic cards, and I just look at it and I'm like, why don't I own the game? The game is like $30. Just
Make
get it.
Sure you got the right Ken Griffey, right?
I got the right Ken Griffey. It says Super Nintendo on the card.
Oh, I mean, there's two Ken Griffey games, and both of them have cards.
Don't even
They are
joke.
not the same.
What's the winning run card? You're going to eBay right now. What are you talking about?
I don't know, but that's it for our show today, guys. Where can we find you? Stefan.
Sure. I'm most often at Twitter. That's at Art of NP, or you can just Google Art of Nintendo Power. Also on Instagram, Art of Nintendo Power with underscores between each word. And on YouTube at Art of Nintendo Power as well. That's pretty much me. Oh, and I had mentioned it before, but my first physical show since 2019 is going to be the Megabit Expo in Simi Valley, California in September. So go check that out.
And you can find Tyler. He is Default Gen. You can find him on Video Game Sage, Game TZ, maybe once upon a time, and Instagram and some of the other places, and our Patreon. You can find him there as well. And I'm Johnny_Iucci on Instagram. That's where you can find me. That and our Patreon. You can also find me on the latest episode of the Video Game Collecting Podcast, hosted by Dan.
You got
nice enough. Yeah, well, there's so many that have. I don't want to get his title wrong.
Yep.
So his is a normal podcast, not a YouTube one. So you can find me there if you are dying to hear more about what I have to say. It was great for Dan to invite me on. I had a nice time chatting with him. Yeah, and of course I made his show 2 hours, which is normally an hour. So maybe I'm the problem on Collector's Quest is what I'm finding out.
I mean, I kind of called you out on that.
Yeah, you were super nice.
Yes,
but but it's also pretty rich for you to call me out because speaking of guys who can't shut the fuck up, Stefan. I mean, that was like a real this guy's going to tell me I talk too much.
It's only when I talk about me though. So
that's true. Which is why this podcast is you get quiet sometimes.
That's right.
Oh. I'm kidding, Stefan, but the listeners need to know I'm kidding. All right, that's it. Anyways, that's it for the show. Thank you so much for listening. And again, thank you very much to all of our patrons and everyone who supports us. Even if you aren't a patron and you've just been a loyal listener all this time, thanks so much. We do appreciate it. We put out the show for you guys, and we're glad you keep coming back. And we've been doing this for over 6 years, so kind of awesome that we're all still here doing this together. Pandemics and all the other nonsense be damned. All right, bye.
That is our show. Errata for this episode. Someone called the Turbo Express the first color handheld. That is not true. That title belongs to the Atari Lynx, both the first color and first fully backlit handheld. What a console, what ergonomics. Thank you to 8-Bit for our intro music. Ape like the monkey, apebit.bandcamp.com. I've messed this up like 2 or 3 times. I'm so sorry, dude. 8bit.bandcamp.com, not 8-bit music. I will never say the word music after your name again. I don't know if that's on your website. Oh, that's your video game stage name. That's why I keep saying 8-bit music. It's your own fault, kind of. 8-bit, thank you so much for our intro music. And thank you to the patrons. Where's my list of patrons? Richard, patron number 1, Bowden, Canadian variant alert, Chris Glidden, Nintendo World Champion, Daniel Jacksvick, high-end collector, Andrew Brim, 50 Hertz is good enough for me, Andre, video games were meant to be slabbed, Brandrew? That's not even a name. Video games were meant to be slabbed, Brandon Ackley, who is Velvet the Elf on Instagram. There are 3 games that he has posted in 3 separate posts. Super Mario Brothers, Golf, and a perfect sealed copy of Pirates of Dark Water for the Super Nintendo. Fantastic. Brian Gupta and Pocky and Rocky with Becky, Mint Condition, Brian J. Mora, The Strictly Limited, Super Rare, Bruno, Sophisticated Investor, Cartmageddon, Fat Cat Collector, Chris Jackson, Chris, SNK, Too Many NES Accessories, Morozek, Johnny's GBA Hookup, Coffee with Mr. Saturn, Playing with Power, Connor Strange, The Last Game You Need for the Set, Corey O'Brien, Unpunched Hang Tab, Dustin Beagle, He Has Returned to Judge This City, Eric Addison, Man of Nintendo in the World of Nintendo, Funky Brewster, The Actual Shinobi, Jasonic the Kid, Jeff the Game Boy Farris, Lance Lord Hardstyle Z, The Degenerate, Matt Ball, Funkoland Employee, Platform Agnostic, Read the Game Shack, The Famicom Box, Retro Game Enthusiast, Sean the Gamer Collective, Previously Unknown Variant, Tim Walker, Can't Put Limits on Collecting, VG Collectaholic, The Millennium, Will Joe, Keeper of the Zelda Variant, 0x Def Code, getting the full PS2 set because Steppen won't, all caps. What a 9.8 A++ Benji, The Actually Rare, Bird Dog Gaming, Brandon Rogers, whose favorite episode is the wrestling episode, still finding deals in 2021 somehow, Colton Murphy, David Green, he's got that on vinyl, Derek Lauer, who made me edit this show, Don Libby, the hero of time, Jeremy Jarvis, here for the Pog Talk, Jim Jacobs, world record holder of Best Collection, Red Pyramid Thing, Jonathan Shados, video game art collector because games are art, Justin Chichillo, Lateral Movement, who's got a Donkey Kong kill screen coming up, Michael, posted in the Discord right now, Chiaramonti, Nick the Video Game Database Morgan, Homebrew Mastermind Divertov, the other guy who collects Korean releases, Peaceful Games, Dungeon Master Reed Stubendick, The Promoter, Retro RPG Podcast, Tom Obscure Variant Chaser Chase, Zaventorian, he knows all 97 Nintendo games, Andrew Actually Collecting N-Gage O, B-Nugs, Colby, he is Sinistar, Corhagen does what Nintendo don't, Daniel McArdle, who thought this was the Retronauts Patreon, the Xbox Authority, Danny Gomez, or the Modern Database. Either one he'll take. The Philatelist, Dork Overlord, My Childhood PlayStation Idol, Game-Rave.com, Joe actually plays his games, Champ Pity, Joseph Rogers got 50,000 on Double Dragon, Collector of Everything, including Atari, Kaylin McAteer, Sam, Sega Mark III Marks, and Sean the Video Game Illuminati LaCroix. Thank you guys so much.